time do you have? 7:19. Okay. The time is now 7:19. Call to order. Good evening and welcome to the September 21st, 2023 board meeting. Before we begin, I would like to ask everyone to turn off any wireless communication devices to avoid any technical interference with the microphones and taping of the meeting. A call-in line has been established here, the meeting interpreted live in Spanish. The number to call is 508-924-5155. Board Member David Murray, please announce in Spanish.
Buenas tardes a todos. Se ha establecido una línea telefónica para que la comunidad pueda llamar y tenga acceso a interpretación en español en vivo. El número a llamar es el 508-924-5155. Gracias.
Thank you. For those who are not able to observe now, this meeting is being recorded and can be accessed for later viewing on the PGCPS YouTube channel. Lastly, I would also like to remind all board members to turn on their microphones when speaking for recording purposes. Mr. Briggs, can you please lead us in board prayer and pledge of allegiance?
Please bow your heads. O God, we pray to administer that which is just in all educational policies, being ever mindful of your guidance, steer us to action with love, wisdom, and understanding. Amen.
Amen.
Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mrs. Barton, please call the roll.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Mrs. Adams Stafford. Ms. Boozer Strother.
Present.
Mr. Briggs.
Present.
Mr. Fields.
Present.
Dr. Harris. Mr. Jackson.
Here.
Mrs. LaSalle Frazier. Dr. J. Miller. Dr. Z. Miller. Mr. Murray.
Present.
Mrs. Rout.
Present.
Ms. Walker.
Present.
Ms. Rivera Forbes.
Present.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you. Colleagues, may I have a motion to adopt the September 21st, 2023 board meeting agenda?
I move to adopt the Thursday, September 21st, 2023 agenda.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. I have a light.
And Madam Chair, I just want to ask to pull item 6.1 separately on the budget consent agenda.
Item 6.1. Okay. So now, may I have a motion to, we need to vote on the motion as amended. So we will call the roll. Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford. Ms. Boozer Strother.
As amended.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Let's finish this vote.
No.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mr. Fields.
No.
Dr. Harris. Mr. Jackson.
Aye.
Ms. LaSalle Frazier. Dr. J. Miller. Dr. Z. Miller. Mr. Murray.
Aye.
Mrs. Rout.
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye.
The motion failed.
Madam Chair, I think normally this doesn't require a board vote. It's somewhere in board policy that if a board member wants something pulled out separately,
It's
we
pulled.
just do it.
Correct. I mean, you are correct. But board members objected because you thought we had you thought there was an emergency item? There's no emergency item. Oh, no, so can we entertain the motion again?
No, we voted.
It did not pass. It did not pass. We have no agenda. So, excuse me? Mr. Parliamentarian, I can take this vote again because we don't have an agenda. I move to reconsider the vote without objection.
Second.
Roll call, Ms. Barton, please.
Madam Chair, can you restate the motion for the board members who've stepped in so that they didn't know what they're voting on?
The motion is to adopt the September 21st, 2023 board meeting agenda.
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded, and I have a light for discussion, Ms. Rout. No light, no.
My point is mute.
Mr. Murray? David?
Just the same thing, the request that we pull item 6.1 separately.
Okay, we'll pull 611 separately. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Dr. Harris, Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Mrs. Salyer Frazier, Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Ms. Mickens Murray.
Aye.
Motion passes.
May I have a motion to approve the August 24th, 2023 board meeting minutes, September 5th, 2023 CIP public hearing minutes, and the September 7th, 2023 board work session minutes?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the 3 sets of minutes. Any discussion? Board Member Adam Stafford?
Thank you. I just want to ask a point of clarification for the public. We had a phenomenal showing of community members that came out for the CIP public hearing. I just want to clarify, are the follow-ups to the questions that were asked, are they located, are people able to access? I just wanted to make sure the public is aware of that. If someone from the administration can just note that.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Ms. Mickens Murray.
Aye, thank you. Now we will have a news break presentation. It's New Year's Day. Please focus your attention to the screen to view our news break.
Welcome back says it all. It may be August the 28th, but it feels like January 1st because it is Happy New Year at the Prince George's County Public Schools. 6 brand new middle schools, lots of elementary schools, many new teachers, and a brand new superintendent. This new year is looking good. Are you excited about the first day of school?
Yes.
Yes. Are you excited?
Yes.
Yes. You look so good. Mom, what do you like about, you're welcome. What do you like about this school?
I like how they communicate. They make sure my kids are well taken care of, and they just always make sure the environment is safe.
As it has always been on the first day of school, a kind of New Year's Day, it was a family affair all across Prince George's County. Emotions ran high as 131,000 students said goodbye to their parents, some more reluctantly than others, showed off their new clothes, sported backpacks from clear to cartoonish, and seemed more than ready to get to work. Even if a few were more interested in the cafeteria. Are you excited about the first day of school?
Yeah.
Yeah? Why? Lunch, yeah. And some intimidated by the new Hyattsville Middle School.
So you guys excited about getting into the new building?
Yeah. I'm scared.
What, you scared? Well, I tell you what, I had a chance to visit it about 3 weeks ago. Incredible.
Incredible indeed. At a jaw-dropping 4 stories high, the new Cathedral of Learning on 42nd Avenue in Hyattsville could easily be mistaken for a college campus. Boasting dozens of classrooms, drama and dance studios, large windows giving panoramic views, and airport-sized spaces filled with cozy chairs, Hyattsville is but one of 6 new middle schools, all P3s built by a public-private partnership that have been completed in just 2.5 years.
We will be building just as many in the next few years, and that is a real partnership between the Board of Education, the County Council, the General Assembly. This is the Prince George's County Public Schools innovation. We are the model for the country, and our students are benefiting first.
If there was joy everywhere you looked on day one, it was because school and county officials are committed to student health, safety, and happiness every day of the coming year.
The teachers are here. They're waiting for their arrival. We have teachers guiding them to their classrooms today, and they're going to be safe and happy today. And I hope that makes them feel better.
So one of my passions is making sure that all of our scholars and our staff have psychological safety. We've had a lot of things that have happened since COVID-19. And, I just think that it's time for us to really focus on our mental wellness and looking at holistic approaches so that everyone is ready to learn and teach.
They should know that all of us are working together, that we believe in them, and we're so excited about all that they will learn, the friends they will make, and we're going to make this a safe environment for them this year and continue to invest in all of our kids and their families.
And if the students are elated, so too are their teachers, many of whom were once PGCPS students themselves. Did you go to school in Prince George's?
I went to school here.
Oh my goodness, so you're back here? What's that feel like?
It feels good because I feel like I'm in sort of a way giving back to the community. And I worked with youth a lot before I started teaching, so it's just another way I can work with my passion. So I love it.
What are you going to say to your kids when they walk in today? Some of them are going to be a little scared and nervous. How are you going to put them at ease?
Well, last year I had some of the kids. Some of the kids probably remember me, so seeing them will be a good refresher. But for the new ones, just to make sure that you pay attention to your teachers. And also, get to know each other, get to know your classmates, It's going to be a fun year.
Yeah, I graduated from Bowie High, and then I went to College Park for my degree.
First day ever as a teacher.
Yes, my first day.
How's this feel?
It's nerve-wracking, but it's also very exciting, too. I'm looking forward to this school year. I'm really looking forward to meeting all these new kids and teaching. I think it's going to be really fun.
And if Superintendent Millard House is trying to convince youngsters that they're in the right place, doing the right things for all the right reasons, then he has to be gratified that the message is already coming through loud and clear.
You know, the message for a brand new family, a brand new student is that we're here in Prince George's County Public Schools to work together. We're looking forward to not only working with our school board, working with our county executive to ensure that we provide the best quality education as possible. Having the opportunity this morning to be on the bus stop, on the bus, watch our students get on with the enthusiasm. We want that enthusiasm to actually bleed through from kindergarten all the way to 12th grade to ensure that they have the opportunities to be college career ready, come back to this county and have the opportunity to have the livable wages to make a difference.
What's your favorite thing about school?
The fact that somebody smart invented a place where children and teenagers can feel safe in a place to learn, and to the point where it's not too difficult or not too easy for them.
What a great description! Schools are in the Goldilocks zone. Thank you, Josiah, and all your classmates across the county for giving us plenty of reasons to be hopeful and proud on this New Year's Day, the first day of school. This is Dave Zarin reporting.
To the communications team, thank you. We will have a community shout out now from Vice Chair Lolita Walker.
Well, let's let the celebrations continue. I am so excited to shout out District 9. Let's roll the film. This is our community shout out, and today I'm so excited to say congratulations to Kendall and Santana who are here tonight. District 9 Young Scholars, guess what? From Frederick Douglass, you are our 10%. I wanted to shout them out specifically, next slide please. Wanted to shout them out specifically because they are 10%. Of the 20 students who applied to this, they were the 2 who got through. Gordonstown International Summer School Scholarship is an international program that attracts students from all around the world. You can see the co-founders, and we've partnered with them to make this happen. You can see Kendall and Santana right there. The Scholarship Trust has provided, look at this, scholarship awards valued at more than $15,000 to students from underrepresented populations for the past 20 years. Again, District 9 scholars, 2 of them were right on the roll, and their proud parents are here as well. They started with 20 and now they were 2. So these are our 2 scholars that we want to say congratulations to. We know that it was not only teacher recommendations you needed, public speaking skills, your GPA, letters of recommendation, service, and all of the things, you hit the mark. So thank you for trusting me to represent District 9, and I am so proud of you. And as you make your way to the front to take a very quick picture, we wanted to show these pictures of you because you lived it up in Ireland or Scotland. Ireland. Woo! And of course, stay connected to me in District 9. Let's take a picture if you don't mind. Would you guys mind taking a picture, please? Thank you so much for shouting out our scholars. That would be the board. Would you mind coming up and taking a picture? Hey, congratulations.
Thank you, and once again, congratulations to the two scholars. So let's give them another round of applause. The report of the chair. There are numerous celebrations in the month of September. The National Day of Remembrance on September 11th is something I want to emphasize in particular. The lives of those we lost on the day 22 years ago must never be forgotten. We will keep their loved ones in our prayers. Attendance Awareness Month is another noteworthy event for this month. Ensuring that our students attend class regularly is the best method to raise their academic performance. Finally, I would like to mention that I've had the pleasure and honor of attending 4 ribbon-cutting ceremonies, and one more tomorrow I will attend, for brand-new schools, along with several current and previous board members. The schools were constructed using the 3P public-private partnership with the Capital Improvement Program. This endeavor was necessary and has worked well. I look forward to phase 2 of this program. And I'd like to say kudos to Mr. Washington and to Mr. Coleman and to Sean Matlock. And I'm calling them the P3 team because you've done an amazing job for our students. And I'll say this for the public. I've been in various parts of this county where these schools have been built. And all these kids have the same amenities, the same opportunities, and I appreciate that. That's why I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Board members, Superintendent House, and Chief of Staff, Ms. Board, all attended the awesome September CUBE conference in Chicago, Illinois. CUBE is the Council for Urban Boards of Education, and 2 of our very own board members were presenters. Board member Dr. Zipporah Miller, who presented Urgent Action Needed, Tackling the Teacher Crisis Head On. Our board member, Zipporah Miller. And board member David Murray presented First Time CUBE Attendees. Our board member, David Murray. I would also like to mention that Mr. Murray is the vice chair of CUBE. Thank you. They did an outstanding job and made us proud. Our student board member of the board, Ms. Rain Rivera Forbes, attended her first Board of Education Professional Development Conference. She also debuted as an ambassador for all boards of education having a student board member to ensure a student voice in making board decisions as a full voting member. She did that at that conference, and we thank you and we appreciate you. At this moment, we will have a moment of silence. Colleagues, I ask that you join me in honoring the memory of the following PGCPS staff, family, and community members with a moment of silence. Jada Bernice Madrano Moore, student, Duval High School. Mariam Torre Sallier, teacher, Dora Kennedy French Emergence. Frank DeVal, father of Stephanie Eugene and father-in-law of Curtis Eugene, Human Resources Office. Rosetta Lawson, mother of Dr. Coletta Mora, Associate Superintendent for High Schools. Janice M. Raspberry, Cleaner Building Services, Bladensburg High School. Donna Blackney, bus driver at Mulligan Bus Lot. Shirley Taylor, mother of Dr. Laura N. Taylor, principal, High Point High School. Wilbert W. Stewart, father-in-law of Naomi Stewart, Instructional Specialist, Area 3 High Schools. Mr. Courtney M. Chapman, Building Supervisor, Building Services. Moment of silence, please. Thank you. Now we will have the announcements of our next meetings of the board for the school year are as follows. The Parent and Community Advisory Council, October 4th, 2023 at 7 p.m. The board work session, October 12th, 2023 at 5 p.m. The Academy Achievement Committee, October 16th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. The Policy and Governance Committee, October 17th, 2023 at 5 p.m. The Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee, October 18th, 2023 at 5 p.m. The Boundary Public Hearings, October 19th and October 24th, 2023, and the next board meeting, October 26th, 2023 at 7 p.m. At this time, I yield the floor to Superintendent House to present his report.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, board members. While we know that we've had a very successful start of the school year, we've been very excited. I think you saw on the video some of our scholars and their excitement. There have been some moments that have caused us some pause and some things that have been very difficult for many of our scholars as well. Not only our scholars, but also our staff and families with, of course, the tragic loss of our Duval High School student, Jada Madrano Moore, and as we heard most recently, the discovery of a firearm that really will prompt some conversation around safety as we want to ensure that our PGCPS schools continue to have the safest environment possible for our staff, students, and community. Now, nevertheless, the sudden acts of violence remind us that no community can be complacent in its efforts to make schools safer on a daily basis. An effective and safe school is a vital center to every community. We need everyone to be a part of this collective effort to, quite frankly, keep our scholars living, dreaming, and thriving. I invite you to join us and join me in a safety action forum centered on security and safety next Tuesday, September the 26th. Representatives from law enforcement, our parent community, our teacher community, as well as our student board member that's sitting right next to me, Rain Rivera, will take part in this discussion. It'll be a session that will be taking place online, Zoom or Teams. Community town halls, as you all may have heard or read, I'm also hosting 4 other listen and learn town halls that begin next week, and I'm excited about ensuring that I have that opportunity in my 90-day plan to listen. There will be 3 in-person events and 1 virtual town hall. The first will be on Wednesday, September the 27th at High Point High School, followed by one at Oxon Hill High School on October the 10th, and then finally our last one at Flowers High School on October the 18th. Now, the virtual town hall will be held on October the 25th. We'll have those dates posted in other places on our website so that you can be a part and participate. They will all start at the same time, which will be at 6 p.m. We know children care, we know children care can often be a barrier for participation in these kinds of events. So we'll be providing on-site child care for free of charge for children ages 5 and up. Now, we won't be taking middle schoolers or high schoolers during this time, but those that have kids that are ages 4 and up, we will have support for them. I look forward to hearing from our community in these meetings and learning more about the actionable steps that I, as superintendent, will be taking to ensure that we are an even better school district as we move forward. Transportation, I'd like to share a little insight updates about. I've heard loud and clear, quite frankly, from not only this collective board and the PGCPS community about the issues regarding transportation.
Please know that I'm truly committed to working through these systemic issues and putting a real solution-focused plan that will relieve some of the issues that we've had for some of our families. That's why I've signed a contract this week with an organization called Formative. That's the number 4, MATIV. It's a consulting group to really help us conduct a thorough audit that will include looking into everything from our hiring practices to our bus routes. The transportation audit begins in September and will take about 90 days to complete. It'll be a very comprehensive audit. Once we receive the recommendations, we will move to implement the solutions that have been presented to us. In the meantime, beginning next week, we will send bus routes that have updates throughout our school messenger, so it's imperative that families update their contact information in the family portal so we can be in contact with you around these kinds of updates. We're also consulting or continuing to consult and around different updates around open bus routes on individual campuses on our website. So make sure you check those routes, continue to make sure that you have the necessary updates. The last thing that I'll mention, board members and Madam Chair, is about an opportunity that I had just this afternoon at Capitol Hill. And my role as superintendent here at PGCPS, it is my responsibility to advocate. And on behalf of our students, staff, and communities, and quite frankly, school districts across the United States, earlier today I had the opportunity to provide remarks at a briefing on Capitol Hill about K-12 systems and how we've utilized federal COVID relief. We know that ESSER and the cliff is coming in 2025 when the federal dollars will expire, and we need to ensure that we have a sustained effort with these federal support funds that will allow us to continue with the programs that have made a major difference with the growth of our scholars. I spoke of the transformative technology purchases, including 90,000 Chromebooks that allowed PGCPS to become a fully one-to-one school district to support remote learning, and our investment in developing summer literacy institutes to enhance middle school skills in literacy and culturally responsive teaching as well. I'm committed to ensuring that we're able to continue the progress that we've made in student learning using ESSER funds. That concludes my superintendent's report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. At this time, we will have the introduction of committee members and committee charge. First, we will have, oh, I'm sorry. Board Member Adam Stafford, you have a question. Okay.
Thank you. I had just a question for Superintendent House. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for initiating the audit. I know that several board members have asked for this for several years, and to know that it's happening this month, I think assuages a lot of the concerns from parents in our communities. So I really thank you for listening and taking swift action there. One of the questions that I have that perhaps you can pass on to the auditor is around our school start times. I know that I've seen just regionally where there have been shifts to school start times to accommodate for bus driver shortages. And I know that we have a wide range of start times for our schools. They're not grouped by like school grade band, like all middle schools start at this time or all elementary schools. And I know that there are reasons behind that, but I'm just asking if that can be taken into consideration as you look into the scope of work for the auditor.
It will definitely be taken into consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Barton, we will recognize the 5-minute rule, 3 minutes for comments. Thank you. Okay. We will now have the introduction of the committee members and committee charge for the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs. I will yield the floor to Chair of the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee, Mrs. Shayla Adams Stafford.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. As Chair of the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee, it gives me great pleasure to introduce the committee members who will be collaborating with me to ensure the committee's objectives and goals are accomplished this school year. Dr. Kenneth Harris II, will serve with me as the vice chair of our OBAFA committee, and board members Jocelyn Rout, Judy Mickens Murray, and Rain Rivera Forbes will serve as committee members. The Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee is charged on behalf of the board with oversight of issues involving school system operations, budget, and fiscal affairs. The committee is responsible for reviewing issues pertaining to the management and audit of functions for the Prince George's County Public School System, reviewing and providing recommendations regarding fiscal, capital, and human resources, including the board's operating budget, the capital improvement program, staffing plans, and allocations. This year, our key focus will be on the following areas: reviewing financial statements provided to the board monthly, review budget alignment, realignment, and transfer requests provided monthly, specifically to show how the modifications reflect on the previously approved budget, ensure that the board's summary statements are complete and that the appropriate attachments are provided, ensure equity in all budgetary matters, including the CIP, while recognizing priority needs in the district, promote community participation before the final adoption of the budget, monitor corrective action plans consistent with audit findings and recommendations. All right. In addition to this, the committee held our first meeting on August 23rd, 2023, to receive updates on the completion of the Phase 1 Blueprint schools and the proposed timeline for Phase 2. We also received an overview of the capital program's accomplishments and the final adopted FY24 CIP and the proposed FY25 capital budget and the FY25 through 30 CIP. On September 13th, 2023, the committee met to discuss the school district's transportation initiatives to mitigate the challenges our students and families are facing, and also to receive updates on the opening of our 6 new schools. We also received an overview of the budget cycle process in preparation for budget season. Following our discussion, the committee voted to recommend that the full board receive the following requests from administration: a timeline on the alternative transportation plan, which would include a cost amount for at least 3 additional contracts in order to provide micro-transit using alternative directives using the alternative directive in the Education Code, to provide a hiring dashboard matrix table that includes information regarding what efforts they have implemented to recruit more school bus drivers and the outcomes of those efforts, provide more information on when the audit will take place, what day or when you will begin the audit, and I believe we just got some information on that just now, and provide a timeline of when the communications will begin, providing families with daily communication on bus routes and whether it will be through the school websites, whether it will be through the PGCPS website, School Messenger, or Gov Delivery. So colleagues, at this time, I move that the Prince George's County Board of Education accept the recommendations provided by the OBAFA Committee from their September 13th, 2023 committee meeting.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the Board of Education accept the 16 recommendations from the budget from the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Oh, well, okay. Vice Chair Walker.
Thank you. I do have a question. I was wondering, did you all talk at all about, in your request to the superintendent about transportation? I know you have a robust plan, so you'll be able to answer most of what they talked about. But did you guys have in there to look at current routes and make immediate changes to those based on the routes? I think you all have started that process already, but I just wanted to know if in your short-term plans that was in there as well. Am I clear on the request?
Are you requesting that in terms of what the OBAFA committee can ask the administration for, or what would you like for us to discuss in our
I was hoping that
meeting?
as you looked at your short-term and long-term, it looks like that's what you're asking for information from the superintendent for, specifically around transportation. And I was wondering, inside of you guys' communications, if anything in there for remedy right now would be in the line of looking at what we currently have, which is adding, I would imagine, cost to our bus routes at this point, if they can take a look and make modifications as appropriate. I actually think the work is already being done.
You know, I think what we're asking that might touch on that is, you know, we're asking in this motion for the administration to provide a timeline when communications will begin to talk about
Fair.
which routes are
Fair.
inoperable, and just like a blanket communication that shares that level of data
That's
with
fair. Thank you.
families. I think that might get to it.
Seeing no lights, any further discussion from any board members? If not, Ms. Barton, would you call the roll?
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson, Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Ms. Mickens Murray.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you, colleagues.
Thank you. Now I will yield the floor to the Chair of the Policy and Governance Committee, Mr. Walter Fields, to provide committee recommendations and also give the legislative update.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good evening, colleagues. The Policy and Governance Committee met virtually on August 22nd, 2023, and discussed the revisions to the following policies. New policy on boundary changes, 5125.4 and 5168. There was a unanimous vote to forward these policies to the full board with a recommendation to seek public comment. The purpose of the new policy, geographic boundaries of attendance areas and the consolidation closure of schools, is to establish an equitable process for the determination of geographic boundaries of attendance areas and the consolidation and closure of schools. The purpose of policy 5125.4, informed consent, student data gathering, is to provide timelines for the administration of external research studies, any internal research study, instructional programs, or course which requires questionnaires and surveys and protected information surveys. The purpose of policy 5168, automated external defibrillators, is to provide guidelines for the management and administration of PGCPS AED program and the development of venue-specific emergency action plans for middle and high schools. On behalf of the Policy and Governance Committee, I move that the policies be recommended for advanced consideration to seek public comment.
Thank you. There's a motion for the Policy and Governance recommendation be moved forward for public comment.
Jocelyn made a second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, Ms. Barton, would you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson, Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Colleagues, the Policy and Governance Committee has been working hard. We started work in August, and we continue to do that work. And one of our priorities this year is to develop a unified Prince George's County Public Schools legislative agenda, and to do it in a timely fashion so that we will present our concerns before the legislative body in time for the upcoming legislative session. You have received an outline of the timetable for the development of this legislative platform, and I just want to go over it briefly. So on September 12th, the Policy and Governance Committee meeting, we discussed legislative priorities. Tonight, as a board, we have the opportunity to discuss with the full board about your legislative priorities or concerns. At our next Policy and Governance Committee meeting on October 17th, which I invite the public to attend virtually because we would like to hear from you, the committee will discuss and approve the legislative platform or agenda and vote to move to full board for approval. At the October 26th board meeting, we will vote on our legislative agenda. And this is a very tight timeline, but it is tight because we learned through the process last year, we don't want to be in a position of reacting to legislation that affects this school district. We are an independent governing authority, but we do interact and intersect with our county executive, with our county council, and state legislature. So it's our intention this year during the legislative session to go before our delegation with an agenda that reflects the priorities of not just the board, but our administration and certainly public input. And two of those priorities I can tell you up front will be school construction, because we believe that we should advocate for additional funds so that we can keep building quality schools in Prince George's County. And on that note, I will tell you, I attended a Maryland Public Television taping with the governor a week ago, and I asked that question about school construction, and the governor said he was fully committed to advocate for an expedited construction program in the state of Maryland so that we can bring 21st century schools online as we've been doing in Prince George's County. And then the second priority item that I know will be part of our agenda is full funding for the Blueprint for Maryland's Future. And that's one that we have to keep our eye on because there has been reported a deficit in the next budget cycle, and we have to make sure that the Blueprint commitment remains. And that is another commitment that the governor made during that Maryland Public Television taping. So with that, Madam Chair, welcome to take any questions.
Board members, the floor is open for questions. I will make one comment. I guess Governor Moore should have someone watching this meeting tonight because he committed to a lot.
Oh, yeah. We put him on the spot.
Okay. I don't see any lights, so thank you for your
Madam
report.
Chair.
Public comment guidelines for registered speakers. To the registered speakers, you have been registered to speak in a public comment forum where the Board of Education will listen to your comments. The board will not address your comments. All registered speakers will have 3 minutes to make their presentations. Registered speakers may not relinquish any part of their speaking time to another speaker or unregistered individual. Speakers may not address individuals or issues with profanity or derogatory terms. You will be warned once. If you continue, your comments will be muted and you may be removed from the meeting. Speakers are encouraged to use titles rather than names. For example, principal, CEO, chair, board member, etc. Your adherence to these guidelines will enable the public participation process to move smoothly. There are 15 public speakers. Our first speaker is Ryan Reed, student of Dr. Henry Wise High School. Change in the school system.
Good evening, members of the board. During the 2022 to 2023 school year, I attended a lot of the board meetings toward the end of the school year. At these meetings, I spoke on the issues that plague not only my school, but our county as a whole. After speaking at these meetings, I've seen a lot of positive changes in my school. Students no longer roam the hallways as much. Metal detectors have been placed in my school, and the road that claimed the life of my teammate has been made safer. Although all of these changes have been implemented, there is still more work to do. In my school, a lot of the upperclassmen feel as though they've wasted their high school experience. They feel like they haven't done enough and they don't feel prepared for life after high school. When students come into high school, they need purpose and direction. They need time to explore their interests. However, this isn't possible if they are constantly surrounded by chaos and anxiety-inducing situations. It should be mandatory for freshmen to sign up for clubs and extracurricular activities. Making this mandatory encourages students to branch out from their bubbles, improve their social skills, and explore their interests. Most students don't know what they're interested in outside of their phones. In their senior year, they shouldn't be worried about feeling left behind or stuck. They shouldn't feel embarrassed when someone asks them what they want to do with their career. If this direction and encouragement is given, it will make a world of a difference. We are constantly told that our future is in our hands, but we need you to give us opportunities to shape our future. We need you to look at and support our sports, and I mean all of our sports, not just the ones that make money for our school. We need you to create opportunities that create equity for every student. Please consider adding intramural sports to every school. Encourage and develop students who enjoy performing arts starting from middle school. With these opportunities, students will definitely leave high school better prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mikhail Witherspoon, student of Academy of Health Sciences, Transportation.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Michael Witherspoon, and I'm speaking about transportation today. I've been a PGCPS student for 7 years, since 3rd grade, and I'm currently a student at the Academy of Health Sciences at Prince George's Community College in Largo. I went to Greenbelt Middle School in Greenbelt as part of the TAG program, and I also went to Glenarden Woods Elementary School as part of the TAG program. I live down the street from where PG County, Montgomery County, and DC meet. The closest I've ever been to my school is a 20-minute drive during regular traffic. So I've been taking the school bus since 3rd grade. The school bus has never been on time for me. It may become consistent by the end of the school year, but usually I spend between 1 and 3 hours of every school day on the school bus. In the morning, that means that I frequently miss being in my first period classes. I've missed testing, important instruction, and other opportunities because of this. At the end of the day, it means getting home late. The latest I've gotten home is past 7 p.m. Being on the bus for so long cuts time from homework, exercise, self-care, and relaxation. I also live on a highway offset by a service road. That means sometimes I've had to cross a service road in addition to a 4-lane highway as young as 3rd grade. In my more recent high school years, bus transfers have been a common occurrence. I've had up to 4 bus routes on the same bus as me, just this school year. There were people standing in the aisle and people were tripled up in the seats. Buses with 4 routes split into 2 buses with 2 routes, and then my bus went to the bus lot and split into 3 buses. Throughout the years, I spent hours at the bus lot, whether that be because of bus maintenance issues or bus transfers. I've also been in multiple bus accidents over the years. Luckily, none of them have been major. What I've learned from bus drivers over the year is that they don't get paid enough, especially compared to newer drivers, and there are too many children on routes that don't make sense. I've heard students talk about how far their bus stops are from their homes, and how the times on school maps for when their buses are supposed to arrive aren't accurate. This has been my experience with transportation in Prince George's County Public Schools. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Timothy Meyer.
Thank you very much. And first, I want to say thank you to you, Chairwoman, plus to all the other board members and Superintendent House who attended the ribbon cutting for Hyattsville Middle School. Also, special congratulations to my District 3 board member, and plus District 4 and District 7 for your new schools so far this week. If there was any doubt whether this innovative P3 program could work, seeing these schools gave us our answer. I'm also proud to be here supporting our friends and Route 1 Schools Coalition allies at Hyattsville Elementary. Also, every other Phase 2 school, including many Title I school communities. Tonight, you have a chance to vote on 8 new world-class schools. But these are more than new buildings, and I'll give you one example. The new Hyattsville Middle School expanded capacity so every feeder school can now send our 6th graders. That gave my school extra room to welcome students from another local school that's overcrowded. And it was a chance to work across district lines to help welcome and work with neighboring District 4. Phase 2 delivers new schools for District 1, Districts 2, 3, 4, 5, and 9. And these big wins are right in front of you, ready to go. But if we play amendment games tonight, reopen this process, and construction gets delayed, who is willing to make your school or your district wait? If costs rise and we need to push one of these schools to phase 3, who's going to volunteer? I do not want this board to go back to its past. We've been there, with endless fights over who got money from whom and which union got which contract. There's too much hard work for us to do and common ground for us to find. So let's turn that page together tonight. Let's put the 9,500 students who will benefit from these new schools first. Please, I'm asking you to support item 6.1 as it is written. Keep construction contract decisions in the hands of the experts. We can spare this board any controversy, and don't even give your critics a chance to second guess you. I'll stand right here with you and tell the PGC Education Collective, hire union workers as much as you possibly can. But for the 90% of Maryland construction workers who are non-union, let's also provide the flexibility so more local residents and PGCPS parents can be the ones building our schools. And those minority and local small business benchmarks, let's exceed them. Thank you to all of you for listening, and let's work to get these world-class schools built without any delay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker, Patrick Pashal, Individual Transportation.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Pashal. I have 2 children who attend Prince George's County Public Schools. I'm here to speak about a number of issues, many of them intertwined. First, it's pathetic that we have to come to the school board and beg you to replace our failing schools. Hyattsville Elementary has been in the next phase of the most urgent schools for rebuild since 2016. This school has had sewage running through kindergarten classrooms. This is literal human waste in my kid's classroom. The temporary buildings that have been there for 7 or more years are falling apart. I mean, actually, literally falling apart. This school is beyond capacity, and the area is only growing. Communication. One thing I find interesting is that you have many, many, many forms of communication. I get assignments via my kids, a piece of paper in my kid's backpack, Class Dojo, Google Classroom, a few other classroom-specific apps. I also get information on School Messenger, School Max, my child's email account, my email account, text messages. When my child's absent for any reason, I get a phone call and a voicemail indicating that my child was absent, emphasizing the importance of classroom instruction, underscoring that there would be an unlawful absence. By the way, unlawful absences, really, where you're going to use the language of criminalization with our children. Indeed, you're so worried about absences that you're instructing parents to send their children to school when they are coughing and sneezing and blowing their nose every 3 minutes. Mask optional, of course. Meanwhile, COVID rates are rising. You use these many forms of communication to tell us that we're breaking the law. And you use these forms of communication to tell us that we need to attend school even if we're sick. But you can't seem to figure out how to tell us whether or not a bus is on the way. You don't say bus driver shortage, first off, because every other county seemed to figure this out. You had this problem every single year, and you've chosen not to address it. That's a choice that you made. But also, that doesn't explain the incompetence regarding the use of technology like Stop Finder, which does not work at all. I can't get an invite to it. My wife has it, but it doesn't have any information. Or the failure to use any of the many communications means that are listed earlier. If I can track every inch of my burrito from the store to the door, you should be able to figure out if I've got a bus on the way. In the first 2 weeks of school, we had 4 days where no bus came at all. And after classes had already begun, we organized carpools to get more than 40 kids to school more than 45 minutes late. The bus has been more than 30 minutes late every single day. Our kids have gotten to their class more than 30 minutes late than its designated time. Kids have missed 10 to 15 minutes of classroom time every single day. You add all that up, it's a chronic absence. But you don't count it as an absence if the bus does it because it's your own fault. Handy, isn't that? And these school bus drivers, they're delivering our kids 6 p.m., 7 p.m. There were people who were left at the school after 7 p.m. on a Friday night because their parents did not have other means to get there and the bus didn't come. I understand that my time is up. All I'll say is that you have an agenda item that you could have put before you this evening, and you chose not to. You're choosing to hide the information from us. You're choosing not to answer our
Thank you,
questions.
sir.
You're choosing not to communicate. Thank you.
Our next speaker, and forgive me for pronouncing your name, but I think it's Bucky Delore. Okay. I don't see anyone walking. So we'll go to the next person, Renee Calloway. And Save Teach 23, School Safety and Teacher Protection.
Good evening. My name is Renee Calloway, and I'm a music teacher at Colin Powell Academy at Potomac Landing in Fort Washington, Maryland. On May 11th, I was jumped by 2 students who attended my school. As a result, I suffered a concussion, a swollen cheekbone, and a swollen brow bone, which later resulted in a black eye and now severe anxiety and PTSD, causing panic attacks and ultimately inhibiting me from performing my classroom duties at this time. Now, as a result of my injuries, 1 student received a 10-day suspension and the other received a 20-day suspension. Here's the problem. As educators, we are charged with refraining from defending ourselves when faced with physical assaults from students. We have become so afraid to use our God-given unalienable rights against these assailants simply because they are minors. Minors that we have chosen to nurture, guide, love, and protect, even when they are the threat. I know that there are numerous educators that have been faced with this traumatic challenge. Even further, there will be educators that experience this challenge in their careers if we do not make a change. We, teachers, must feel protected and safe in order to effectively educate. We are stakeholders in this field as well, and we need laws that protect us. We need the Student Code of Conduct to reflect safety for teachers, not just students. Protection for teachers, not just students. Education reform cannot just be about test scores and the aggressor. I'm asking that before you revise this handbook, you meet with your employees who have been assaulted, survey the needs, and adjust accordingly. We want to educate, nurture, and inspire. That's why we became educators. Please help us feel like you value us and understand that we are teachers, paraprofessionals, substitutes, custodian, food service workers, bus drivers, nurses, guidance counselors, secretaries, mothers, fathers, wives, husbands, uncles, sisters, brothers, grandparents, sons, daughters, not martyrs. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Martin Diggs is our next speaker. AFSCME Local 2250, Workplace Safety.
Good evening, everyone. And board members, thank you, Superintendent House, for the opportunity to come and speak to you all tonight. I'm President Diggs of AFSCME Local 2250, standing in support of approximately 6,000 proud professionals of Prince George's County School System. Since the very first incident back in June of 2023, where suspects boarded a bus and attempted to murder a student, another incident occurred when a parent pushed past the bus driver and assaulted a student on and off the bus. This was caught on the bus's camera. You had a student who came here before you named Miss Ryan, Miss Reed, she's here tonight, who attends Wise High School. Her and her friends are going to attend summer school because they didn't feel safe and were afraid that they wouldn't make it out of high school. A few months ago in our nation, there was an incident in a school bus where an elementary school student screamed to all of the students on board of the bus, "Shoot the driver." The driver took this threat very seriously. How long are we gonna say we're working on it? When are we gonna make a change? In April in Boston in public school system, a bus driver was punched in the stomach by a student's mother, who then pulled out a knife in front of him and shattered the rear window, the rear mirror of the bus while students witnessed this on the bus. I can't tell you the numerous times bus drivers have reported kids on the buses smoking, drinking, or having sex. Last school year, 15 loaded guns were removed from students in Prince George's County Public School System. It's only week 4 of a new school year, and we've collected 4 loaded guns. We're averaging 1 gun per week. So at the end of the school year, how many will we have? Well over 100 knives have been removed from students in schools, including pepper spray, brass knuckles, and other weapons. So what are we going to do about it? I won't say nothing. I will say that we're moving slowly. I have 3 asks, and it is to start with. 1, ensure security personnel at all central office locations where there are none. Ensure security personnel at elementary schools, beginning with high-incident schools where there are none. Ensure 1 security personnel at the bus lots in conjunction with the garages across Prince George's County system where there are none. A few weeks ago, I visited a county administration building on McCormick Drive. I was met by 5 uniformed police officers and metal detectors. If this level of security is good enough for them, why not have something similar for our kids and our employees to feel safe? We're supposed to work collaboratively together, but too many times meetings are used as just,
Mr.
let's check
Diggs.
the box.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Steve Sinclair Jr., EAS Carpenters Union Project Labor Agreements.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is
evening.
Steve Sinclair. I'm actually a member of Local 197, EAS Local Carpenters Union. And I come to you this evening to let you guys know that I am a proud resident of Prince George's County. I attended Prince George's County Public Schools growing up. I've lived here all 36 years of my life. I'm also a proud union member and business owner. These 2 things are not at odds because I can be a business owner and also want the best for the rest of my co-workers as well. The right thing to do is to give people of this community a chance to be successful, have equal pay, and have dignity in the jobs that they have and be safe every day. Project labor agreements help with this process. Project labor agreements are also an investment in the community as well as these schools are. Without project labor agreements, you wouldn't have the building trades having apprenticeships such as the one that I graduated from. And it helped me become a full-fledged journeyman carpenter and business owner myself. I'm also a parent of a young lady who will be attending Prince George's County schools next year. So it's very important to me, the infrastructure and how the schools are working. I want more Prince George's County residents to have the opportunity that I had growing up, or not growing up as I got older, and learn the trade and be able to open businesses up like I do. As you guys being educators, I'm sure you can appreciate that as well. People getting continued education after school. Not everybody goes to college. These unions help a lot of the residents feed their families, feed their children, make sure that their children are well balanced and not coming up in violent communities, and not coming up hungry, and not having guns and drugs around them. This starts with project labor agreements. You can build the next generation of entrepreneurs and business owners in this community who would never have imagined a career in construction or owning their own business. I ask the board to vote favorably for the motion enabling the administration to sign an MOU with the building trades, which will allow all parties to operate in good faith so all workers and families can be protected under a project labor agreement. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next, we will have LaShawn Middleton, EAS Carpenters Union Local 197, Project Labor Agreements.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is LaShawn Middleton, and I am a proud resident of Prince George's County. I am a woman in construction. I am a Black woman in construction. I am proud of the work I do with my hands. I have been a safety manager in the construction industry for many years, making sure men and women go home to their families in one piece is my passion. Their lives are my will calling. I think about their lives every second of my job. Safety is my number one concern, and I know that with a project labor agreement, we can build schools in this community to the highest standard and give women who look like me a chance in construction. The sad truth is that women like me often don't get a chance to start their career in construction unless there's a project labor agreement in place. But with a project labor agreement, you can get rid of hurdles and obstacles that many of us have to face in Prince George's County. There is nothing a woman can't do in construction. I want every young woman graduating from any of these upcoming school projects and schools in this community to have the same opportunity I had. You have the power to change their lives today. I asked the board to vote favorable for the motion enabling the administrators to sign an MOU with the building trades, which will allow the parties to operate in good faith so all workers and families can be protected under the project labor agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Shannon Reed, Individual Reading Instruction and Data Monitoring.
Good evening. I'm an English teacher whose understanding of literacy development was enriched from working with culturally and linguistically diverse students at Bladensburg High School. I earned a master's degree in curriculum and instruction with a focus on teaching English to speakers of other languages, and later a master's degree as a reading specialist, specifically because I needed specialized knowledge to work with those particular learners. Special populations need specialized teaching. The last cohort of English 10 students I taught at Blade during the pandemic taught me something that I would like to share with you. I planned for the class to use literature circles to discuss the novels we were reading, but each time I entered the breakout rooms to monitor students, I heard limited, stilted conversation. This informal data brought to mind a principle I had read during my training as a reading specialist. See what's been done and do something else. Sitting on my sofa, I flopped back and prayed, Lord, help me to use everything I've learned to help these children. Stopping and doing something different allowed me to create a collaborative learning approach that integrated vocabulary development, reading, writing, speaking, and listening with rich interactions with students. This developed their knowledge and skills because they were equipped and supported by highly scaffolded lessons, a learning routine, and feedback that met their particular needs. It was a lot of work, a lot of planning, a lot of repetition, a lot of feedback, and a lot of data collection. And a lot of time. I had the same group of students every day, one day for English 10 and one day for speech. So I embedded the principles of speech into our English 10 content because I knew these students needed more precise instruction, not more work. In truth, it takes a really long time for students who have underdeveloped reading and writing skills to do grade level work. Teachers feel the weight of this every day. It's heavy. 75% of my current students read far below grade level. Their background knowledge, vocabulary development, and reading skills remind me of some students who are developing English language proficiency. Since 90% of reading problems are a reflection of instruction, PGCPS must critically look at every aspect of instruction and its instructional practices that direct teachers instead of empowering them. So many students are so far below their reading grade level because they've been given programs, devices, and software instead of well-trained teachers who can plan the rich interactions and offer specialized instruction they need. Teachers need support and time, not packaged curriculums, directives, and tools. Collaboration with teachers means PGCPS will be in a better position to add insightful qualitative data to the patterns evident in district level data. It means that teachers are engaged and prepared to effectively apply and evaluate curriculum, instructional practices, and tools. Teaching and learning must be shaped by teachers who can help students think more, feel more, interact more, and do more. PGCPS has a tremendous opportunity to embody this vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Raymond Clark, International Union of Painters and Allied Trades, Project Labor Agreements.
Good evening. Good evening to the Prince George's County Board of Education, to all officials. My name is Raymond Clark, and I have lived in Prince George's County since 1990. As a proud union member of the Painters and Allied Trades, I have been afforded the opportunity of a lifetime to carry out a meaningful and purposeful family-sustaining career. Not everyone will have the desire to attend a four-year institution, and we must provide additional pathways to wealth, and that is what the union provides. Without project labor agreements, our local county residents aren't given a chance to have work opportunities while they are completing an apprenticeship program. When a young person can live a meaningful life and sustain their families, it helps to lift all boats. When this cannot happen, we see communities that remain at unrest. This board's support of project labor agreements are appreciated and will help provide the necessary framework for the next generation. I ask the board to vote favorably for the motion enabling the administration to sign an MOU with the building trades, which will allow all parties to operate in good faith so all workers and families can be protected under a project labor agreement. And I thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Raymond Clark, International Union of Painters and Allied Trades Project Labor Agreements. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't cross them off. Felicia McDaniel, Individual School Safety.
Good evening, members of the board. I am delighted to be here tonight. I'm actually glad that this meeting is on a Thursday because I consider it a thankful Thursday, because this is honestly my first board meeting, and I see the passion in the room, and I see all the intelligent people here speaking on behalf of really important causes. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. In terms of safety, I just want to say that I'm very proud of one particular teacher in Prince George's County, and that is Renee Calloway, who already spoke earlier. She was number 6 on the agenda. My daughter, Joy, who came today, she wanted to make sure that we supported Renee Calloway because she was there the day that Ms. Calloway was in the altercation. And so I just never imagined in all the years that I've been a supportive mom in Prince George's County, I never imagined that my daughter would have to witness violence from student to teacher. I would never even imagine that parents don't discipline their kids or the kids don't have enough manners. I don't know, it's just overwhelming. But what I love, and this is, to me, it's a big deal, is how Ms. Calloway has taken a very negative and scary situation, and she's turned it into a positive cause. So Safe Teach campaign is really important. Safe Teach 23. I just really would ask that we all support that because, of course, the kids need to be safe in school, and I love all that everyone's doing for that cause, but the teachers need to be safe as well. And I just feel like I have so much respect for the educators and the teachers in this county. I came from Virginia, and so many people said, oh my gosh, you're gonna go to school in Prince George's County. And so I was nervous about it, to be honest. But then when I went to Vansville Elementary in Beltsville, it was fabulous. Then we moved to Fort Washington. We were at Potomac Landing. And because I was nervous, I said, wow, there's this awesome teacher who's in charge of creative arts who has made us feel like this is exciting. So I've had nothing but positive interactions with Prince George's County other than the transportation, but I just know that we have some phenomenal teachers. We have phenomenal teachers here. I support them. I'm the mom who's at every field trip. I'm the mom who's at the PTA, the PTO, because I respect what you guys do, and it's really important. But in terms of safety, come on. This is just overwhelming. It really is overwhelming to me. And I would just pray that we continue to just work on it because there's got to be some hope. And again, this is Thankful Thursday. I think we should be thankful for what we have, but just keep working. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Ms. Pauline Headley, individual agenda item 6.1. I don't see that person walking to it. Okay. Essence Herndon, individual transportation concerns.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. 228, please remember that number.
Okay.
Overly worked, very underpaid. 228. No accountability being placed on schools when students are placed on the wrong bus or not given the correct information to transportation. 228. MOUs being placed but not being followed to the rule, with reneging verbiage and management flip-flopping. 228. Payroll, IT, HR, issues are never ending. To get paid a partial check only to be told it will take 3 pay periods to get the remainder of that pay. Yet our bills don't want to hear that. 228. Mental health for our drivers and attendants. With the everyday issues that go on out here in the world, where is their safe haven? 228. This cannot be stressed enough. Job safety. As drivers and attendants, we are too wide open to the public that have anger management issues that show up to bus lots. We are too wide open where they just drive up gingerly on the bus lots, approaching drivers, ready to fight and assault and do God knows what else. 228. My name is Essence Herndon. I'm a bus driver out of Goddard Bus Lot. This is my 9th school year with the school system. I am also very, very involved in my union with AFSCME Local 2250. I am the chief steward of the transportation chapter. We have been trying our best as the leadership team to sit down with management to come up with various solutions to help with job safety for our attendants, our drivers, and our office staff. 228 is what I started off with. That is the number of open routes. We understand and we hear these parents' plights. We are asking for patience and grace as we are trying our best as drivers and attendants that are actively here every day to get your babies to and from safely. These overlapping school bells are not helping. The traffic is just out of this world, but we are trying our best. 228 open routes, meaning 228 drivers we do not have. Hear us clear. Do something, please, because it is weighing heavily on us as drivers and attendants. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie, International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Project Labor Agreements.
Good evening, distinguished members of the board. My name is Stephanie Lashley, and I am a resident of Prince George's County and an apprentice of the IBEW. As a woman and a proud member of the union, I know that project labor agreements will further position the county to meet its various women and minority participation goals. I want nothing more than for the next generation to have a pathway to family-sustaining careers, and you all have the golden opportunity before you today. Project labor agreements help support small women-owned businesses and also minority-owned businesses. Although we are encouraged by the county executive and the administration's handling it in good faith, we do not feel that it goes far enough. Thus, we are asking this board to vote favorably for the motion allowing the building trades to enter into an MOU that will provide opportunities for over 26,000 workers in this area. Thank you so much for your time and have a good night.
Thank you. That was the end of our public speakers, but there are 19 written comments. These written comments can be found on board docs. Of the 19, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for labor agreements. There are 2 pre-recorded videos for public comment. These pre-recorded comments can be found on board docs. Thank you so much for your written and pre-recorded comments. We will move to 4.0. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Colleagues, we will now consider the items listed under consent agenda. I will now yield the floor to Superintendent House to introduce 4.1 through 4.7.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and we will move forward as scheduled. 4.1, proclamation for world space.
May I have a motion to approve 4.1 through 4.7?
I make a motion that
Correct.
we approve items 4.1 through 4.7 for our proclamations.
May I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Ms. Barton, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mr. Fields.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson.
Aye.
Dr. Juanita Miller.
I have, did you say 4.6 or 4.7? Because 4.7 talks about the revised, it's not a proclamation. It's a revision.
I didn't say proclamations. I said items. The motion was.
I said the word proclamation. You're
Right.
correct with 4.7. Thank you.
But
4.7 is the revised 2023-24 PGCPS school calendar. Thank you for making that note.
I vote aye.
Dr. Zipporah Miller.
Aye.
Mr. Murray.
Aye.
Mrs. Rout.
Aye.
Ms. Walker.
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes.
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye.
Motion passes.
I will now yield the floor to the Chair of the Academic Achievement Committee, Dr. Zipporah Miller, to speak to the committee's dates and work plans.
Good evening. Today I will provide a brief overview of our work and will provide a detailed overview when we return in November. The Academic Achievement Committee, on behalf of Prince George's County Board of Education, has outlined its work plan for the upcoming school year 2023-2024. The committee's purpose is to oversee various aspects of the school system, including academic programs, student affairs, parent and community engagement, addressing academic performance gaps, enhancing outcomes for different student populations, and ensuring educational equity. The work plan was developed in collaboration with the Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Judith White, and it aligns with the Prince George's County Public Schools strategic plan. This year's foci are as follows: mathematics, the interventions and programming; equity, diversity and belonging; pulling back the layers, equity leads dash to action; school culture, climate, and social emotional learning; also a review of the data; the content pass rate for mathematics and science by race and special education; the core content pass rate for English language arts and social studies by race and special education; kindergarten, grade 1, and grade 2 literacy data. The Academic Achievement Committee will examine the theories behind practice, and then we will come back to the topics and follow up with a discussion on implementation. And finally, we will conclude with determining next steps and recommendation based on insights and progress made during the year. Additionally, our committee's work plan also will hone in on middle school, English for speakers of other languages, and special education while examining each topic. As the chair of the Academic Achievement Committee and the vice chair, Ms. Pamela Boozer Strother, we are excited to go into these discussions along with our colleagues, which are Mr. Brandon Jackson, Mrs. Madeline Lasalle Frazier, and Mr. David Murray. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. House, please introduce items under the budget consent agenda, items 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask that the board consider as presented on the consent agenda, specifically items 6.2 through 6.4, because 6.1 has been
Right.
separated, as
Correct.
Mr. Murray requested earlier.
Correct. May I have a motion, board members, to approve 6.2, 6.3, and 6.4?
I make a motion that we approve items 6.2, RFP 01223, school-based private duty nursing and immunization clinic services. 6.3, request for proposal, PUR 016-23, provision of mental health services. And 6.4, Prince George's County Public Schools dual settlement offer.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay, it has been moved and properly seconded to approve 6.2, 6.3, 6.4 under the budget consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson, Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Now, colleagues, Mr. Superintendent, Superintendent House, would you introduce 6.1 for discussion?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask that the board consider separately item 6.1 on the agenda.
Board members, may I have a motion around 6.1?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of 6.1, Blueprint Schools Phase 2, preferred developer, and approval to proceed to commercial and finance closing.
Second.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded to approve the Blueprint Schools Phase 2 preferred development and approval of proceed to commercial and financial closing. Is there any discussion? And I see two lights, and the first person is Ms. Rout. Board Member Rout.
Okay, thank you so much, Chair Mickens Murray. I would like to amend the motion on the floor to read, I would like to amend item 6.1 to direct PGCPS to sign the proposed MOU between the Baltimore DC Metro Building and Construction Trades Council.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to amend the motion.
Correct.
Is that accepted? And it has been moved and seconded, so that is the motion that's on the floor first. Thank you. So, colleagues, is there any discussion around the second motion to amend the first motion to include, to direct the administration to accept the MOU? I see the lights. I need to do me a favor. Since we're on the second motion, I'm going to turn all these lights out because I want to make sure that we're on the second motion. Okay, so I need you guys, if you don't mind, board members. Now, second motion. Thank you. Okay. Board Member Boozer Strother.
Thank you so much, Chair Murray. There's a reference to an MOU that has not been presented to this Board of Education. Is not official business. I would like to, I will ask Superintendent House and Capital Projects team to explain, how this came about, but there is a document that was emailed to the board, like anyone has the right to email us any information. This was not put in testimony. This is not a document that I was reached out to discuss in any way. And quite frankly, I didn't read it because I didn't think that's the way you do partnership, is to be demanded to engage in a memorandum of understanding, which is typically a partnership discussion. So that could have been done better. So I would like to ask Superintendent House and the appropriate division leaders to address their understanding of how this was sent to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Be glad to have Dr. Coleman and his team to address the concern.
Thank you so much, members of the board and Superintendent House. At this time, I'm going to defer to Associate Superintendent Jason Washington so he can respond to that question. Thank you.
As it relates to the MOU that was sent to the board, we've never seen the MOU. It was never sent to us. There were 3 discussions with the union, building trades, one that occurred here as a kickoff, and 2 subsequent ones where we discussed and committed to ensuring that there would be, we believe, robust union participation in phase 2. We also committed to requiring the developer, PGCEC in this case, to engage in good faith. How have we done that? We've already scheduled a meeting with the unions next Friday at 9 a.m. to start that conversation. So the requirement to enter a MOU assumes that we've discussed every item within that MOU. I cannot confirm that. I have not seen it, and so it was not sent to us. I was just told that we were accused of not signing it. And so that's all I can tell you about it. I don't know the substance of the MOU, so I can leave it there right now.
Board Member Adam Stafford? I don't see your light.
I know, but I was one of the first.
I don't see your light.
You can allow her, she can go ahead and speak, that's fine.
Okay, there is no light.
Thank you. I've received the same letter that the rest of the board members, but I took a step further and contacted one of the leads in the P3, which is Mr. Matlock. And the response that I received, and I did get his permission to read this because I think all of us need more information. And he stated, Dear Dr. Miller, we have made no commitments, oral or otherwise, except to have the selected developer meet with the union representatives to discuss a potential PLA. The sole reason for the P3 is to build desperately needed schools that would otherwise be unaffordable to build in the needed time frame. 3 of the proposed schools we want to replace through phase 2 are so structurally compromised that they were deemed unsafe to occupy by independent engineers. Safe and affordable school buildings are our primary concern. Per the EFMP, we have seen an escalation in construction costs as compared to funding that the gap has grown from $8.5 billion to $20 billion to complete the work in cycles 1 through 3 in just 6 years. As the board has witnessed from testimony at our last hearing, there's still a tremendous need that we can't even come close to meeting with current funding. Please don't allow outside interests to take away one of our few effective tools for delivering much-needed schools. My position is that the board needs to talk to or have conversation with the superintendent as well as Mr. Matlock and Mr. Washington, who have been carrying this. And as one board member has indicated that she had not read it all, but the implications there I found were necessary to question the lead persons in this project. So at this point in time, I would recommend that we give the superintendent and his team an opportunity to review this MOU, that was sent to us that evidently has not been sent to the administration, so that we can make this board can make an informed decision.
You know, I usually wait to speak after everybody speaks. But I need to say this. I have been to every new school, and I have met with folks every day, and I've mentioned this MOU every day. No one said to me they had not read it, had not received it, any of that. So I'm just letting you know, public, full transparency. Now, I kind of really upset, but anyway,
I think I was.
Wait a minute.
I
You
was-
said- excuse me, I hadn't, because she
Yes,
was
she hasn't
responding
finished.
to
Okay.
a comment I
Right,
made.
that's right.
Now, you're
So I just
saying
wanted
no
you to
one
know.
has said anything to you.
I asked the question
Of whom?
of 3 men, Mr. Washington, Dr. Coleman, and Mr. Matlock. I asked the question every day because I was concerned we were going to have folks here concerned about an MOU. So I did not think until you mentioned it, Dr. Miller, that I would need to say, well, have you read it? That never entered my mind. So anyway, Dr. Miller, any more comments?
Well, I read it, the MOU that was
But they didn't
sent-
read it, is my point.
We never received.
They never received
They
it,
never
but.
received it.
but
I have
they
a point of
meant-
information, point of clarification. Can I call a point of information? I have a question.
Let me.
I can ask a point of
Dr. Miller,
information
can I
to
go?
her?
Okay, Shayla, I
Point
mean,
of
board
information.
member,
Point of information. I'm just wanting to be clear. So are we saying that you all did not receive an email in August with an MOU from the building trades did you or did you not receive this email?
When we met with union leadership, they sent us sample.
give me a second. I
No.
think this is relevant. And Dr. Miller said it was okay, because Dr. Miller had the floor. So go ahead.
Yes, I was just
Board Member
wanting to
Adams
get
Chapman.
clarity on whether you all had received this email.
We received, when we met with them, we asked for sample MOU language and sample resolution language. They sent that over. We said, thank you. We then inquired and talked about and made it clear that we would not be signing an MOU. We felt that it was not appropriate because it was never part of our discussions when we put together the agreement, rather. And so we never, it was never sent to us as a form of this is the sample. What was sent to us was this was an example of how we can do an MOU. And we made it clear in our conversations that what they were asking for in that discussion and in that document was something that we had never discussed. We had discussed being able to engage and talk about ways that we can work together. They said that that's what they were looking for. And so as it relates to this particular document that was delivered to the board, we were never, it was never sent to us as a way of signing this. And
Okay.
this is what
I just
we
wanted,
should. Yeah.
thank you for clarifying. That's all I asked for
Thank
that
you.
question.
Board Member Rout.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I just find it unprofessional that people are not reading things that are being sent to them. That is the purpose of us as board members. And so I just think that in this instance, you know, I have been in contact with most of the county council members who have been trying to reach out to resolve this prior to today. Chair Tom Denoga requests Superintendent House that you give him a call regarding this. He stated that you have not called him back. As it relates to this MOU, he also stated, and there's been many conversations. I just think it's appalling that if we knew about the language that was emailed to our PGCPS staff who's responsible for this, why not carry it through? Why not send the information so that we can make an informed decision? Why is it that we are receiving emails from members of these labor trades and labor unions, and we have shared all of the information, and there has been many conversations around MOUs, and so I just find it, very interesting that we're sitting here today saying that we haven't seen final language for MOUs because, you know, this is just really a shock.
Thank you. Board Member David Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I find it unfortunate that I intended to spend my time talking about the benefits of PLAs, to thank our community and citizens that have come out and spoke not only tonight but over a period of months and years now in favor of these projects. I'm in strong support of the proposed MOU for a PLA, as are many of the board members. But I'm very surprised and kind of frustrated at Mr. Washington. First, I heard you say that you hadn't received the language. Then I'm looking at screenshots of the emails to you receiving the language. I think we're all pretty clear and have had some time to work this issue out. My council member, Tom Dranoga, reached out to me as well. I'm looking at the email where he made clear that the county council is not taking the P3 up without this PLA agreement. They said they're not moving on it. It's not even going to be on the agenda without the PLA. So for the board to approve this P3 without the PLA, we're just going to find ourselves back in this position and having to revise it. And so I think the whole board has received this MOU. Staff has received the MOU. I'm prepared to vote to support the PLA, but if staff perhaps needs more time, maybe we need to come back and address this at a future meeting. But for this board, we cannot pass this P3 through without the PLA. And so that's my message tonight.
Thank you. Vice Chair Walker. Vice Chair Walker.
I think it's unfortunate that we are at a public meeting and we have yet to talk about this as a board, yet to hear from, but what we do hear at a public meeting for the first time, at least in my stay, is that our council people have said that they're saying no to a project that is ultimately imperative to our schools, as we've heard. And this is the first time that our board, who has an executive board meeting, is hearing that our council is saying no, that they're going to stop this, yet we haven't had an opportunity to take a look at it. I am very concerned that our council is what's driving the decisions that we're making tonight. I am overly concerned at that when we are a board that are very capable of listening, of making decisions, of talking to our peers, and of in letting them know, hey, these are the concerns that we see. And so I actually wanted to say something else before this, but what I'd like to do is really, I was in the meeting, and so was Chair Mickens-Murray when the union first came, and Jason, Mr. Washington, Mr. Matlock, and a bunch of other people came into that meeting. The union, the whole room was packed.
Yes.
They came in, and we had a great discussion, the first of many kinds, and that was asked by a number of people for us to have, and we had that meeting. We sat in that meeting, and the action from that meeting, for those of you all who were here, the action from that meeting is that they would send in some sample language of what they would like to see inside of a PLA. That was the action, okay? And that action was done. The next step was that our team was going to then go back and take a look at that and say, hey, what have we done in the past? Because we have actually had some PLAs in the past. How exactly can we make sure that we're meeting the needs of everybody into what is already in play? That was the action. So I'm really concerned that we haven't talked about this as a collective if we had severe issues, and that we're having this discussion right here, and it feels as though we're very divided, but we don't have to be. And so I want to encourage us to make sure that we're talking and leveraging our executive board meetings to get to it, so that we can make sure that as we have demands or requests of our staff, that we do it in a way that allows them to come back to us with pertinent information so that we can make an informed decision. I am not prepared to vote on this tonight, and I will say no, because I don't have proper information to be able to do that. It's not the action that we decided to take, nor is it on our agenda, nor is it a board action.
But let me add one thing to what Vice Chair Walker said. When we left that meeting, we had a commitment from you to continue to work with the unions. From that, I'm thinking there would be some agreement around something.
But that's what he just explained.
But no, what he explained was, from the first meeting, there was an agreement for them to send the template for them to look at. But there were several meetings after
Yes.
that. What happened in those meetings?
In those meetings, we went back and we looked at the language that they sent us. And we said specifically, because the conversation started off that there was no union engagement at all. And we went back and said, that's not true, that this is where unions were participating in phase one. We then talked about, and in our meeting, we talked about the flexibility, how we can create carve-outs for MBEs, how we can ensure local hiring. And we was like, this makes a lot of sense. We believe strongly that we can work together to put something together. At that point, we were asked, okay, can we have a definitive, there will be a PLA. And we made it clear is that we do not have the ability to do that, because in the contract that we had agreed to with all three respondents, because we were still in the RFP stage, it was never added as a contractual obligation. And so
Point of
then
order.
we met again with the unions, and at that point, we had conversations on fringe, we had conversations on prevailing wage, and we asked a simple question. What failure in phase one that you can point to that you believe that a PLA will solve? We provided $141 million for MBE participation.
Point of order, point of order, point of order.
Oh, yes.
We're out of order on our discussion. We're all speaking out of turn. I actually want to move to postpone this so we can have some time to talk collectively.
Do you want to make a motion?
I move to postpone this discussion to a future meeting.
Second.
Thank you. We
Madam
need some
Chair.
time. We all need time.
Excuse me.
It's been moved and seconded.
Excuse me, there's a motion on the floor. It has been moved and seconded to postpone this until we get additional information.
Yes, give the administration time, give the board time. We need some time.
Madam Chair, one question.
We will discuss it. It's been moved and seconded, so.
We have a discussion. I have a question. I don't know whether Mr. House knows, but Mr. Washington, is there a timeline that we have to approve? See, we're under a timeline, and,
Okay, where we are is that there's a motion on the floor that we postpone this, approving this action until the board receives additional information from the administration.
How does that impact our timeline?
Madam Chair.
Wait, we're going to have a discussion, so then you can ask those questions.
Madam Chair.
We need to know if this is about the amendment or about the
We're out of order. We
6.1.
have to go in order. So
Okay. The action is to approve the approval of the Blueprint Schools Phase 2, preferred development and approval to proceed to commercial and financial closing. Then there was an amendment. And the amendment was to approve it, but with the and direct the administration to approve the MOU. That became a robust discussion because of what several of us believe we understand. Now there's a motion on the floor to postpone the approval until after the administration comes back to us. Do you have a time? In a week, in a what?
that hinges on, I feel my colleagues are asking the timeline. If the administration can provide us with a timeline, I'm thinking in 1 week's time. I think if we have 1 week to come together, would that be amenable?
We can do that.
Okay, 1 week.
In a week?
Next Thursday.
Okay, so that is the motion, that we postpone it until next Thursday to allow the administration to bring additional information back to this board. And it has been moved and seconded. Now we're open for discussion. Let me see and the first, Board Member Boozer-Struther.
Yeah, I'll be voting no to postpone this. Our kids can't wait. We just spent days talking about an $8.5 billion backlog in our school construction. Our buildings are crumbling. We have children in swing space. We risk this entire timeline if we delay this. And I will be very clear, the General Assembly, who is funding this through the Built to Learn Act, will not be happy. They were probably very disappointed to hear a pronouncement of a position of the county council that hasn't even happened yet. This is the General Assembly's Built to Learn Act. This is not the same as our first partnership. That was between us, the board, and the county council. This is the General Assembly's Built to Learn Act that gave us the ability to do the ACF model again, the alternative construction financing model. It contains deadlines, and I'm sure the administration can explain those deadlines, but I want to read to the public what is in what we're voting on tonight so that it is very clear what we are saying. And this is on the final page of this motion. Whereas the board believes that it is in the best interest of PGCPS to request PGC Education Collective, that is who we're voting on a contract with tonight, to engage in good faith negotiations to establish a project labor agreement. I frankly think the board has made it clear that we expect our new partner, who is working in partnership with us, the way partnerships should be done, to do this, because this board is about to put it in a whereas statement in this contract approval. So I have full faith that we will see a PLA with PLA in their final plans, because the developers who knows the financial impact, we cannot just make a declaration or use this random document that shows up. I could have gotten 10 of those, frankly, right? Let's be honest. Could have gotten 10 requests of how this should go. But only the developer knows how this will impact the finances and how this will impact building the eight buildings. Again, we have two of those buildings were emergency closed. Those children are in swing space. We cannot risk keeping them in swing space any longer. We cannot wait to find out which other school is going to crumble and have an emergency closure and not have swing space for them. That is the point of where we are. And we've been talking about this for years. This is why we have an educational facilities master plan. This is why the General Assembly cleared the way for us to do the first P3. This is about our kids, and that is the one and only lens I am looking at this tonight. And I encourage my colleagues also to look at it that way. And again, we are saying to PGC Education Collective to engage in good faith negotiations to establish a project labor agreement. I can vote on this tonight. We do not risk timelines, and we do not risk the General Assembly wondering why they put our trust in us tonight. Thank you.
Board Member Fields.
Thank you. I love our P3 program, and I do not believe it should be altered. Our children deserve the best schools possible, and they deserve them now. I'm really irate that I hear a member of our county council make a threat, because we are in an independent governing body. And if we are going to put forth the best interests of our children, I'm concerned where there appears to be an ethical breach by a county elected official who would make such a threat. I am here to only serve our students. I am not here to serve third parties, including labor unions. And I want to make that clear. And I've been a labor supporter for all of my career, including working in one of the most labor-intensive cities in America, New York City. But I refuse to hold our children hostage when they are walking in buildings that should have been condemned years ago. We just opened 6 beautiful schools, have 8 more. I want someone to tell our children that they have to wait. That they have to wait for adults who are playing political football with a program that's a national model. Build these damn schools, excuse my language. And I say that because I'm angry tonight, because this whole process reeks of politics and nothing else. It's not about our kids. We do so much that is not about our kids. This is one program that we should be able to go across the country and show that Prince George's County has an innovative school construction program. When I was at the National School Boards Association, I was talking to someone about this program, and they couldn't believe we had figured out a way to build schools in this way. And now we're here ready to amend something that really works. Let's be smart about this. I think there are ways to make sure that we have prevailing wage language in this agreement, that we make sure that we hire minority women and business entrepreneurs, but I don't want to hijack something that works. It's like, why try to fix something that's not broke? It works. We've seen it work this week with opening new schools. And so I'm not only against this amendment, I'm against the whole idea of even discussing a PLA in this program. The program works. Leave it alone.
Thank you. Board Member Rout?
Thank you, Chair Mickens
Oh, I'm
Murray.
sorry. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. It's Board Member Zipporah Miller. I'm so sorry. I had it written there.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to go back. I'm going to start with Drew Freeman Middle School. I attended as many as I could ribbon cuttings. I wish that I could have gone to all. But I used to work at Drew Freeman Middle School. And I remember putting buckets sometimes because the roofs were leaking. And it was such a joy to walk into that new building and seeing those students' faces because they have a state-of-the-art learning environment. And that is what every child in Prince George's County Public Schools deserves. So I pose a question, postponing this, how far along do we want our children to wait? I am in favor of unions. I'm in favor of a project labor agreement, but I also am in favor of minority businesses. I'm also in favor of local businesses. So when I looked at our resolution, my screen went off. When I looked at our resolution, I believe it was page 7, and it talked about going into good faith negotiations to establish a project labor agreement. That could include looking at the MOU. But us having to postpone this and have our children wait, I think is not good for our children. For anybody who has a child in Prince George's County Public Schools, not good. And even if we don't, we owe our children to have state-of-the-art learning environments. So as we look at this, and we try to postpone it, when we look at this, we could have just voted on it as is and said, take a look at the MOU that was presented. But we're amending it, and now we're voting to postpone. But it's not, is it about the learning environment, or is it about an amendment? Let's focus at the work at hand. Let's focus on what we need to be doing. I really want us to move forward. I really want us as a school system to work with our unions, with our minority businesses, with our local businesses, and sit at a table to make it good for everybody.
Thank you.
So,
Board Member Rout?
well, I want to know.
Oh, I'm sorry.
My question was postponing this. How far will it go back? Because I just can't. I had a school which had to go to swing space because the building was a safety issue. Students had to get up and move literally in less than a month. So we can't afford to wait. So my question is, pushing this back on a vote means, does that mean we have to wait and it may push our deadline?
Who you're asking that question of?
The
Sorry,
superintendent?
Mr. House.
We will provide the information as asked for within a week to the board. But Mr. Washington has made it clear to me that the idea of moving forward with a PLA was not something that was in agreement or that we were moving forward with. I think it's extremely important that we move forward on this. If you're asking my opinion, this is good for kids. I'm a superintendent that has worked in 3 different states, seen, how slow this process can go, knowing that we have children in swing spaces, knowing that we have, over 50 facilities that have 50 years of age on them, that we don't want to be seen as an organization that has slowed down the pace of something good. So we can provide the information that whatever it is that you want, but in my professional recommendation, we need to move forward. We need to get this done.
Thank you. Board Member Rout.
Thank you, Chair Mickens-Murray. I just want to focus our attention to some of the testimony that we've heard in this meeting, in prior meetings, about the ability to provide for some of our children who may be in those swing spaces. Some of these workers are small business owners here in Prince George's County. Their children, who are PGCPS residents, deserve their parents not being victim of things like wage theft. Our children also deserve us to take a look at this. And so if my colleague says, let's pause and let's review, I don't know if a week is going to make all big of a difference. I speak in favor of the motion that is on the floor to postpone the votes. I used to be a member of a union, not a construction union, but there are things that happen to workers who are not members of unions that are not great things. And so speaking up and speaking out for the purposes of our students on both sides, we should be considering. And so if we knew that this is where we were going to be, I think that we should have done our due diligence, all of us, to ensure that we were looking at all aspects of this and not just saying, oh, I didn't even know. We all knew. And so if it's taking us a week to discuss and review and read, let's do that. And let's come back and let's talk. But I was under the impression that because there wasn't on an agenda, that no one had a problem or an issue, because we all received the same correspondence. I yield.
Thank you. Board Member Murray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that some of the rhetoric that's being thrown out about delaying these schools is frankly misleading. The board votes on this tonight. Shovels are not going into the ground tomorrow. No one's talking about delaying school construction. We're all in agreement about building these schools. I also want to make clear we're not the ones holding this up. If members were willing to vote tonight to support the MOU, we could pass this tonight and we could pass the P3 tonight. But if members are not ready to support the MOU for a PLA, that could hold us up. If the administration is not timely responding to elected officials begging them to support PLAs, that may hold us up. And so we're ready to vote in favor of this PLA. We can hold a special meeting as soon as the administration is ready to support it. We're not holding this matter up. The matter of having a PLA has been out there for some time, but this is not going to delay the building of schools. It's something that has to be done in order to build these schools.
Board Member Briggs.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam Chair. So I just want to say that I think there are a lot of really important points that are being made here tonight. But I do want to say, when I was thinking about everyone sharing what they were sharing, I was thinking about our teacher shortage that we also have. And we're not going to just put any teacher in front of our kids. We're going to make sure that they are certified, that they have years of experience, and that they're going to go through a set of evaluations that really ensures that who we have in front of our kids is going to give them the best education possible. I think this process is equivalent. We're not going to just have any agreement put together, right? We're going to ensure that this agreement reflects our community and our values. Our values are that we care about our students. And if our students are first in this, then we understand that it's not just our students going to the school buildings, but it's also who's impacted by those decisions and those agreements, right? It is the families who are working, and potentially working below reasonable wages that are the parents of our kids. There are the family members, right? The relationships of the teachers and those who have been in this community for years. I think that when I think of our values and I think of what we stand for, a week doesn't, trump that, right? Essentially, we can take the time to say that the agreement that we're putting together reflects our values and our community, and not essentially that we're just going to move forward because this is inconvenient. And I think that's what I'm hearing tonight, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily anyone's purposeful answer here, but I do think that that's what's being reflected through the discussion that's coming from this. So I want to say that for me, I think the middle ground is we can have an additional week. We can have some time to think about this. We can have the information that's supposed to be available for all of us to really make an informed decision. And I don't think that to my colleague's point, there's no shovels going down in the ground right now. We can take a second to take a breath and to read through the information and really understand what's going on here and put our priorities in order, which is our communities and our values, just as much as getting these schools built. So that's what I want to say about it.
Thank you. Our student board member, Ms. Rain Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry. All right. So I first want to say that as the student board member, I am here to represent the student body, and especially to represent the student body voice. In this decision, since the student member of the board is now granted budget voting rights, I want to make sure I make the most informed and best decision on the behalf of my peers and for myself. And I would like to take time to have the information presented before me so I can make the best decision. Right now, we are presenting ourselves as if we're in major discourse, and this does not set a great example for the students that we're representing every single day, for the students that I am representing. As a board, we need to come together as a united front. And right now, we don't look like that. And as my colleague, Board Member Briggs said, we are here to stand on the morals and values of our community as well, the people that we're also representing when we sit here in these seats. So I would like all my colleagues to remember why you're here, why you ran for your position when you were elected, and what decisions you're making every single day and who they impact. So if we do need to take time to get information, that is important, rather than to make an informed decision just because you believe this may happen or that may happen. You need to take time to think. We all need to take time to think to make sure we come, like I said, as a united front on this decision, so I can make sure I'm voting on the behalf of the students that elected me into the seat. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Wisdom from our youngest board member. For me, and this is my first round, so I would like to share just a couple of things. One of the things that I believe Vice Chair Lolita Walker and I tried to do was to put the two groups together to give them an opportunity to work out whatever differences there were. And this was like 2 or 3 months ago. So I'm thinking that would happen because we were very clear. This board leadership was clear that there would be no PLA in the RFP because the RFP was already done. But we were also clear that there was an opportunity for some discussion and, in the name of collaboration, hear each other and then bring this board an informed recommendation. So I will support the week's delay only because I believe it's important to show the community that we are working in sync, the administration and this board, and that there's information missing. And we need to hear that information, see it in writing something, and you need to present that to us. And in the name of transparency, it needs to be public. Thank you. It's one more person. Yeah, it is Juanita, and then the second round, folks. You had it first. One, Dr. Miller.
I'll
Okay, she gave it to you, you give it to her.
I'll defer to you.
Okay, cool.
We're working together tonight. Y'all better capitalize on this. Okay, here we go. So, first of all, I just want to start off by saying what we have done here in Prince George's County is literally remarkable. With Mr. Washington, Mr. Matlock, Dr. Coleman, it's remarkable. And I mean, I think we just need to stop for a minute. They have built schools with union labor and minority participation. Start there. And they did it in 2 years. I mean, I want us to just level set really quickly. And I think what we're asking for here is a pause so that we can all get on the same page. We did something that has never been done. We've been able to bring together all of these different groups for something fantastic. And so what I just want to kind of start there. You know, our schools, also want to clarify, our schools were built with union labor. These schools that were built, they were built with union labor. I want everyone to understand that. The challenge was the developer that we used, there was some wage theft that happens, and that happens when we don't have guardrails. A PLA provides us with guardrails. A PLA provides us with guardrails to say, we're going to pay people a living wage, we're going to ensure that there are safety standards so that people can go to work and feel like they're getting an honest day's pay for an honest day's work. I was a union member. My entire family were union members in Flint, Michigan, working in factories, okay? So I know what having a union job can do for a community, what it can do for a family. And when we talk about all of these challenges with youth engagement, youth crime, with all of these challenges we're facing in our community, what do you think that stems from? Lack of economic opportunity. What does a union job do? It gives you economic opportunity. You know, we right now are gatekeepers. Us people, we have the privilege of being gatekeepers. We have a $1 billion opportunity to increase life, to improve lives here in our county. We are the most union-dense county here in the state. We have 14 unions that are housed here. When we build things in this county, we build them with union labor, and those are the parents of our students. When I go to schools and we ask them what they need, they don't need, what they ask me, they say, can we get jobs? Can you help us get jobs? And that is the truth. So when I'm asking us to take a pause, I'm asking us to take a pause to come together. We just came together and built these schools. Let's not let all of that good work go to waste. We can find a middle ground here where every party feels like their voice is being heard, but right now we're talking past each other, and I don't think that we're really giving an opportunity for us to really read through what this MOU is saying and what it can do for our families and our residents here. So I'm just asking for us to take a pause, let's take a step back, let's try to see how we can come together and give the administration some time to review this and bring us back something.
Thank you so much. We're going to move forward next with Mr. Fields, followed by Board Member Z. Miller. She didn't give me your name, but I will add you to it. Thank you. Are you next? Oh, you deferred. I did see that. You deferred. Thank you very much. Let's go back to Dr. Miller. Thank you. Mr. Fields, you're next.
I just want to be very clear. Board Member Murray, David Murray, mentioned that if we didn't do something that I want you to make that statement again, because what we do here, we're an independent body, and whatever decision we make relative to PLA has nothing to do with what decisions the county council makes. So I wanted to be clear that our decision isn't based on what the county council says we need to do. And that's what I heard you say. So if I'm incorrect, please correct me.
I don't want to mess up Robert's Rules of Order and go back and forth with you, Dr. Miller. Yes, yeah.
It's in the notes.
You have my number.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Miller. Did that conclude your statement? Yes, it did. Thank you. Mr. Fields?
I think it's been stated that union labor was involved in the construction of our 6 schools. I don't think a PLA is necessary for this next round. We've built schools in a manner that we have brought them online in a timely fashion. And I will also say that while we can have empathy for the state of workers in Prince George's County, Our charge is not to be an adult workforce labor organization, workforce development organization. We are a public school district. Our first responsibility is our children. And if it means building schools in a way that brings them on track early with an innovative program, as we've done, then that's what I believe our focus should be. So when I hear all of these other concerns piled on top of the enormous responsibility we already have of educating children and putting children in quality buildings, that's the part of it that I just cannot accept. I was ready to vote tonight to approve the original proposal to get this next phase of our construction program underway. No, I don't think a week delay is going to cause any delay in the construction of our schools. I do think there's a principle at stake here because I see conflicting issues. One is our independence as a governing authority for our children, which we have to draw the line with our county. That is not their responsibility. It's our responsibility to make sure our children are in the best buildings possible. So I think we should think, and I also take the advice of staff seriously. It sounds to me that staff looked at this issue, considered the options, and came to the conclusion that a PLA was not necessary for this round of school construction. And I think we hire staff for a reason, and I think they did their job. So if we're going to delay this for a week, we can come back a week, and my position will still be the same. Leave this program alone.
Thank you. We're moving on to Dr. Z. Miller, and followed directly by Pam Boozer-Strother, and then we are all set in calling for a vote. You have your light on? Okay. Okay. Dr. Z. Miller, you're up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I wanted to just go back to one thing. As we talk about moving forward and taking a pause, I also want us to reflect. I was ready to vote today as well. I was ready to vote because as I was reading the resolution, when I saw it spelled out that there would be good faith negotiations for a PLA, that's what gave me a sense of, okay, we're actually looking at a PLA. So I don't know whether this is a motion, but I'll propose if there's going to be negotiations, what is stopping us from saying that the MOU that came in, that the staff can take a look at it as a part of the negotiations as they're working through developing the PLA so that we have one in place? Because the goal is to get the delivery, and I get it. My colleague said a shovel is not going in the ground tomorrow. However, you know, if we want to take action on this, just to ensure that we still continue the goals that are set forward, keeping it affordable, making it efficient, including minority businesses, including the unions, including the local businesses, and ensuring that they're including as they're looking at the PLA. So there's nothing stopping them from looking at the MOU that was put in place. If the MOU was in board docs, I would have read it. I read all my board docs before I came here. If it was in here, I would have read it, and if I had questions about it at that point, I would have asked them. So there was also some information about wage theft, but it is my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the labor rate for union and non-union are identical. Can somebody help me with that? That they're paid prevailing wage?
Prevailing wage is in phase 1 contract and will be in phase 2 contract.
Okay. So I'm just asking as we move forward to really consider, since we already have in the resolution that was presented to us that there would be good faith negotiations, we can ask that the administration also look at the MOU because they have one or some idea as what they want to see in place with the PLA so that they can work through that and have a PLA in place.
Thank you. We will now first round with Board Member Jackson. What? No, this is the first round. You haven't spoken.
That's good. I mean, I've heard a lot of great points, but I want to just speak to something Board Member Fields has brought up about. It's almost as if you're presenting this like false binary where if you're for, PLAs or you're for like tabling this discussion, then you're against building schools now and it's gonna hurt our kids. It's like, it's either you're for the kids or you're not. And I was just gonna say, do you know what variable has the strongest correlation to crime? It's unemployment. And when I talk to our parents, the first thought that comes to their mind when I ask them their concerns is always safety. So all we're trying to do is to make sure that the money that we're gonna spend comes back to our community to employ our constituents, make sure that when our constituents get employed, we know that that's gonna mitigate crime as well. So essentially, like, this is all for the betterment of the students. Like, so it's all the ecosystem. I just I don't wanna say I hate, but I don't like that, you may not have meant to do this, but the message that comes across is like, you pin it against, if we're for PLAs, then we're against students. If we're for delaying this to get more information, then we're against the students. And I don't think that, I think we're putting the students first, but we're putting the entire family first. And I think that's what we're trying to do here, is put the family first. Thank you.
Thank you. The next, second round for Board Member Boozer Strother.
Thank you so much, Board Member Mickens-Murray. I do want to say I expressed a while ago that I was very concerned that this wage theft would come up, this narrative of wage theft, and I am disappointed. Just because there are accusations leveraged doesn't mean it happened, and I think if anyone is going to say this about our partnership for our first ACF model, that there was wage theft, you should have the data and present it. I did ask for data on an accusation we received, and I will tell you that the payroll was intact. There was not, did not bear out, and these employees, their wage was about $40 an hour, which is about $80,000 a year. These are very good paying jobs, but they made a false accusation about wage theft. And I think we have about 12 or 14 of them, of thousands upon thousands upon thousands of payrolls. So I want to say to everyone, please don't believe that narrative. It's been out there for a while. Even a former member of Congress jumped in on it and thought that she could accuse us of wage theft, and I was very disappointed in her. The MOU that, again, was emailed to us, again, we could have had multiple versions. This could have been another union. Anyone, it was not on our agenda, and I do have to say to Madam Chair respectfully that you do set the agenda, and you were aware that this document wasn't on the agenda, and you probably knew an amendment was going to come from the floor, and we would be in this situation. So I do need to correct that as well. Again, I do not think we need to delay. I'm very satisfied with the whereas statement for PLA, and I think we should go ahead and vote tonight and allow whatever has transpired to be the starting point with the developer, because I think I can guarantee that our administration would need more than a week to run the cost calculations on all the suggestions in the MOU. This is an $850 billion agreement, and the idea that it would take 1 week to cost out the many, many factors listed, I did just read it, by the way, from my email, not the board agenda, that could take weeks, if not months. And that's the whole point of awarding the contract and the contractors getting to work. So I'll be voting no.
Thank you so much, but I need to make a comment. I requested the MOU to be on board docs. That's all I will say about that. Now, who's next? Who's next?
Shayla.
On my list, it's Adams, oh no, Vice Chair Walker. Vice Chair Walker, and then board member Uza Struthers.
There's a narrative that accepting this resolution means rejecting union labor. It is not. From my perspective, I am a supporter of union labor, which is why I believe that there needs to be clear accountability as we move forward with building our schools. Accountability that looks different and feels different because we understand what the gaps are and where people's concerns are. I'm also a small minority business as well. This is a narrative that going with what it is that we have does not support small businesses. And so what I just want to say is that as we, board members, talk around the table, then I do believe that we've got to be careful in calling out other board members as though support in one way or another means something else. Because we are here as a collective to move forward for our children, we say, but it feels very political when we want to go back and forth and who said this and who's not going to support this at this level, who's not giving us funding. It's unacceptable for where it is that we're going, and there's a lack of trust for our staff to say that, hey, I've heard you, I've sat down with you, and I will ensure that this is going to be inside of our documents moving forward, and then we hold Jason and his team and Dr. Coleman, my apologies, and his team accountable for what it is that we want. I am concerned that we're moving with a political lens of which we've heard tonight. I'm very concerned about that. So I want to be just very clear that my movement with what it is that we have now demands accountability, and that can look different and feel different based on where the gaps are that was there, and we can work on that to make sure that we're getting what it is that we need for our small business owners as well as our unions who were represented in our last go-round. But what I will say is that I will not be held hostage by any other elected official to tell me what I have to do when I'm an elected member of this board who was elected by people inside of my district to make decisions. I support the unions. I support small business minorities, and I am sorry that you all are getting caught up in what it is that is happening right here. But what I will say is that as we move forward, I will be one of the ones to hold our team accountable for what it looks like and feels like different to you all, so you all feel equity a little bit different than what we had in our first phase. That is what I'm going to vote for, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. We have one more light, Adam Stafford. And if we want to continue, we must vote. And Mr. Briggs, that's the light.
Thank you. I just wanted to make a couple of clarifying points. So when we're talking about wage theft, we're not talking about Prince George's County Public Schools paying contractors less than the prevailing wage. We're talking about the developer that was in phase one that has multiple lawsuits. And if you need me to send you the lawsuits, I can. They have multiple lawsuits against them for wage theft. And that is an undeniable fact. And so if you can imagine going to work all day, lifting, doing heavy lifting, heavy work, and then not being able to pay your bills, that's what we're talking about. And so thankfully, we're not using that developer anymore. I mean, we are all moving in the right direction. We're not even using that developer anymore. What we're talking about now is developing an MOU or signing an MOU that would in which PGCPS would direct the developer to engage in a project labor agreement, in which they would set standards for the people that are working as contractors on our schools. Project labor agreements create a return on investment for our taxpayers. So we are paying for these schools through our taxes, right? So when you're paying your taxes, you're paying for these schools to be built. Well, if the schools that are being built at the expense of the workers and they're not being paid a fair wage or not getting health care, these are all problems that are going to return back to our community. Another thing I want to state is when I'm out talking to people in the community, one of the main things people say to me is they need to bring the trades back. How many? Raise your hand if you've heard that. I mean, everyone says they don't teach this anymore. They don't teach that anymore. Well, guess what? We have an amazing CTE program where they are teaching people trades. But here's the question. Where are they going to work when they graduate? How many of the people that have come here have stood before you and said they are PGCPS graduates? These are people that went through our school system. And so they need places to work. And so when we have a project labor agreement, we have this amazing opportunity to not only be job creators, in addition to develop these new schools, we have to take that opportunity and make sure that we're making a conscious decision that's an informed decision for all people in our community. So I'm just asking, after this next comment, for us to just call the roll. Let's take some time. Let's come together as a board, and let's work with the administration to come up with a solution that everyone can be happy with.
Okay, to our audience, we need you to please. I realize you're enthusiastic about it, but please. We need you to, with the decorum, to just allow us to finish the discussion. Our last person is Mr. Briggs.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chair. What I'll just say is that for me, this is a matter of accountability. I don't, I think that we are just requesting the information that we need. And I think that this decision that's being made, there's a lot of, maybe certain folks got the email, others didn't. But I think that what it really comes down to is we have a fiduciary responsibility to manage our budget, to handle policy, and to engage with our community. So that is our responsibility. Our responsibility is not just on teachers or principals or curriculum, but it's on everything that pertains to the running of schools, right, and supporting with that. So I think that, as we're making these decisions, I want to continue to reiterate from my end as a board member, and I know this is the same for my colleagues, is that we are working in tandem with you. We do care about these things. This is important to us. This is why we're having this discussion and postponing this. Because I think that when our students watch this, when the parents of our students watch this, they want to know that we care about them just beyond what's happening in the classroom. Because there's so much that's happening in our schools that's beyond the classroom. So I think we have to strike the right note here of the balancing act, which is not just simply the policies and the budget piece, but also how do people feel about the decisions that we're making, and do we care about them? And I think that this tonight is saying that we do care. I know that's what my colleagues feel, and I just wanted to echo that accountability is us getting back the information that we need to make an informed decision here.
Thank you so much. And finally, I will say this. I believe in collaboration. I believe in opposite sides having an opportunity to work it out. And that's what I thought we had given you, and that's what had been done, and you too, folks. So what I'm looking for, hopefully, and I think what we're all looking for, is when you come back next week, that, and we will announce that we're going to have a meeting next Thursday tonight, and whatever we need to do to write that and make sure we don't violate any Open Meetings Act. Please, Ms. Dent. That we're communicating to the public that witnessed the House here. It is a transparent, open process. That's what we're trying to do. And we're trying to say we negotiate or talk to our constituents in good faith. And good faith means keeping your word, board gets information timely, and board responds timely. So that's all I would say. Ms. Dent, please call the roll. What's the motion? Okay. The motion is that we will vote on.
You want me to say it? Postpone.
Approval of the Blueprint Schools Phase 2 preferred developer and approval
Madam
of.
Chair?
Yes. The postpone, right.
Motion is to postpone.
Thank you. That's the operative word. The motion is to postpone the approval of the Blueprint Schools Phase 2 preferred developer and approval to proceed to commercial and financial closing for 1 week next Thursday, when the board will reconvene in a special session, and you will provide us additional information. Call the roll, please. No, they'll,
Madam Chair,
yes.
is next week's proposed meeting virtual or in person?
Virtual?
How do you guys want? Board members?
I made the motion, I'll say virtual.
Virtual?
Yes.
Okay.
And what's exactly the information what exactly is the information that's going to be
I thought we
provided?
had closed discussion.
Okay, well, that's great. If so, somebody can quickly say what it is. It'll take 2 seconds since we know.
We'll provide a recommendation to the board. We'll come back with the reasons behind the recommendation as well.
Thank you. So,
Ms. Barton, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
I have a question. I don't know that that was what, okay.
We post?
But the information wasn't for a recommendation.
Don't interrupt the vote.
No. Okay, let me repeat the motion. The motion is to postpone the approval of the Blueprint Schools Phase 2 Preferred Developer and approval to proceed to commercial and financial closing for 1 week for the administration to, it's the MOU that's in question, so to review the MOU and bring that information back to the board. Are we good, board members?
It wasn't what to, it was to postpone it, but it was not to.
Okay, Shayla, would you make your motion? I just took the recommendation out of the motion.
yeah, but we need to be clear on what's coming back in 1 week, or else we will be
And we can
here
only discuss this.
again.
So are we asking to make that determination now of what we're asking them to bring back to the meeting? Or is that something that can be emailed? I just asked to
No.
postpone. I didn't.
But there should be a reason, and I thought the reason was for the administration to review
Madam
the
President.
MOU that no one received. Yes, sir.
I mean, if I could add some clarity to my colleague, I mean, part of it as well is that we're missing several colleagues. We may have had the votes tonight to support a PLA, so if we can get the full board here next Thursday, virtually, I think we'll have the votes to support a PLA.
Well, that was not my rationale. My rationale was to give the administration an opportunity to review the MOU, which they said they never received.
That's fine. That's fine. That's fine.
So
I'm
are we
okay.
in
Yes, we
agreement?
can vote. We can vote. I'm sorry. I just wanted to be clear on that.
Okay,
'cause
do I
this
need to
one-
repeat it again, Ms. Barton? The motion is.
We can vote.
Madam
No,
President,
Yes, sir.
there's concern that the motion was to postpone to Thursday, period.
Period. That was the
If,
motion.
if there are amendments to that, such as, and they come back with this, that, or the other thing, then that would require amendments to the motion to postpone. I think that's the point, and it's correct.
Okay, so if we're not asking anything different.
Can the maker amend the motion?
Yes,
It's your
Madam
motion.
President.
Okay, I would like to amend it that we postpone the vote on item 6.1 and return next week, and the administration review the MOU, and that board members review the MOU, so that we can have a discussion.
Point of order.
That's what I was asking.
Over here. Yes, sir, point of
It's
order.
my understanding that there is not an MOU, that there have been suggestions about an MOU, but an actual MOU does not exist per staff who have been engaging in discussions with labor. So we would be coming back next week to essentially vote on what we could vote on tonight.
We can send, all board members received a copy of an MOU. That's how this conversation started.
It wasn't an MOU, it was MOU language for consideration that he should consider to put into the documentation. It's the same language that we talked about as the action item from the meeting that you and I sat in.
But that's an opportunity for them to review that
It
language.
is, but what he's saying is that it's not an official MOU. It's not. What it is proposed language that would allow them to feel equitable. And so the action was for Mr. Washington and the team to go back and look and say, hey, are there ways to incorporate this in? Is it already incorporated in? How can we ensure that this is equitable for the folks that are asking for it? That was it. This is not an official MOU that needs to go into a contract or documentation.
We're not saying that it should go
Well,
into.
we keep calling it an MOU. That was his point.
Madam Chair,
But they're reviewing something.
can we
Yes, sir.
amend the motion so that it's clear that the administration is to review the draft document that was provided to the board members? I haven't seen the document, so I don't know what it's titled or labeled, but let's make clear what the document is. So, we're not, calling it an MOU if it's not an MOU. Let's identify the document. Let's make sure it's put on board docs so that the board can review it.
I will ask for it again.
And let's
Okay.
make sure the administration knows what they're reviewing and knows what they're being tasked to do so that we aren't in this position again next Thursday.
My light is on, Madam Chair.
Beg your pardon?
My light is on.
Dr. Miller, since there is no order. That's Z Miller. I don't see J Miller. But let's be clear, guys. What we're trying to do is get more information. What we're trying to distinguish is what that more information, what document they should look at to get that more information.
We just need to be clear as to what the document is.
And the document, as I understand it, is the MOU that was sent to all board members, which I will ask again that it get posted on board docs for that next meeting.
I want a point of order.
Yes, sir.
Point of
Yes, ma'am.
information, not order, information. We're postponing the vote on item 6.1. Yes, no, we're postponing the vote on item 6.1, right? In item 6.1, we have a resolution that is not offering, but saying that they will engage in good faith negotiations. So if that means that they need to also take the MOU in consideration, couldn't we just add that in here and say, as they're in those good faith negotiations, take a look at what is in the MOU so that if they need to add what is in their negotiations, it's a part of the negotiation.
Board members, if you want another round of discussions, we need to vote on it.
No.
Okay, then, so we need to vote. What we're trying to clarify is what is it that we want, and that's the motion that Ms.
Yes, and I will clarify.
Please.
We are asking to postpone item 6.1 for 1 week, to come back and vote. And we're asking the administration to review the draft language that was sent to them and for the board to have time to review the draft language that was sent so that we can come back and have a discussion.
So we're asking the board and the administration to review the document as we know it as a MOU.
Document, yes.
Madam Chair, when you say
We-
document, I need for clarification, because the document is the document that we are making reference to, the document that was sent to all of us by Victoria Leonard of the Metropolitan Area, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington Laborers Union Council, LIUNA. Because we keep talking about document, and Mr. Washington said that some suggestions, well, he didn't use the term suggestions, but they had received what the MOU could or should contain. So here's a document we're talking, that was sent to all the board members. But what is it that has been sent to the staff? So,
They didn't receive anything, right? The staff has not received anything.
We were not copied on the email on Friday. It's been referenced that this was a document that was sent to us earlier as draft language, so I'm assuming that it's the same document, but the document that was sent to the board, we were never part of that.
So we need to have the document posted on board docs so everyone can have the same document.
I totally disagree. This is like having any outside entity all of a sudden have a document in board docs? No, this is this is Superintendent House's motion.
Yeah.
Any documents that come with this motion come from Superintendent House. They don't come from a third party.
The board chair has a right to put it on the agenda. The board chair has every right. The board chair actually requested that it be on the agenda tonight, which
But let me
could've-
say this, the board chair can speak for herself. It is clear to me that confusion is being kind of intentional. We all know that there was a document sent to the board. We would like for the administration to review that document and come back and make a recommendation to us as it relates to the contractor. That is what we're asking. That's what we've been asking for the last hour. So, can you reword your motion, please?
The motion is for us to reconvene in 1 week to postpone item 6.1 and reconvene in 1 week, and that both the administration and the Board of Education will review draft language of a potential MOU from the Baltimore DC Trades, or the draft, or I don't know, but basically draft language for the MOU that has been sent to the
all
board,
board members.
to all board members. When was it sent?
Yeah, if someone
When-
who's
can someone
received
say
it, just so
when-
that it's
when
clear
was
what
it sent?
document we're talking about.
Does anyone have that date?
Yes, I
Because
have
sure
it
don't.
right here.
Okay.
It was
On
sent
September
on
15th.
It was sent September?
September 15th.
Yeah, that was Friday. Okay, September 15th. So the motion is to postpone this meeting, to postpone taking action on 6.1. 6.1, approval of the Blueprint Schools Phase 2, preferred developer and approval to proceed to commercial and financial closing until both the administration and the board review the draft MOU that was sent on September 14th, 15th. Now, are we ready for the question?
I just want to add, the motion that's set, it doesn't negate that the staff will still engage in what is in the resolution.
We're ready for the question. Please call the roll. Ms. Barton.
Mrs. Adams Stafford?
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother?
No.
Mr. Briggs?
Aye.
Mr. Fields?
No.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Dr. Miller?
No.
Juanita? I'm sorry.
No.
Dr. Zipporah Miller?
No.
Mr. Murray?
Aye.
Mrs. Rout?
Aye.
Ms. Walker?
No.
Ms. Rivera Forbes?
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray?
Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Motion failed.
Okay, we'll entertain another motion. Or we can table this.
Parliamentarian?
Okay, let me clear the lights, and then we'll start.
Madam Chair, the question is on the amendment.
Excuse me? The amendment, the first motion to approve.
Yes, the amendment to add and approve the MOU.
The first motion was to add the amendment to,
There was an amendment
I
to
thought-
add and approve the MOU to add those words to 6.1.
oh, okay. So the motion now is to add the MOU, to direct the staff to accept the MOU that was sent to the board for 6.1, approval of the Blueprint Schools Phase 2 preferred development and approval of proceed to commercial and financial closing. Is there the motion was made and it was seconded. So any discussion? If there's no discussion, David Murray.
Yes, Madam Chair, if I could make one quick comment. Colleagues, this is actually our opportunity to just wrap this up and not need to meet next week. If we just vote for this motion for a PLA, if just one more of my colleagues votes for this PLA, we can empower our community tonight. We can keep our schools getting built on time. So I'm just asking one of my colleagues that did not vote to table, please support the PLA this evening and we can wrap this up tonight.
Vice Chair Walker.
Or we can trust our administration as the opposite end to that, or in conjunction with, trust the administration that we will hold you accountable to ensure that we have small business owners inside of there and that we have our unions represented wholeheartedly.
Board Member Boozer-Strother?
Yeah, I agree, and I'm sure many people in this room
Madam
tonight
Chair.
think I am in opposition to the content of the intention of the MOU. I am not. I am for our new partner, the developer, who has all of the financial implications and will be working with you to do the PLA. It states in here that this board expects a PLA. That is, so for anyone who's concerned about my position, it's about the process. It's not about the end result through this whereas statement, which I think is very powerful, this board, and will be history-making in itself. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
those that have those members that spoke on the amendment the first time through, that time counts.
Oh, then there is
It's
no,
accrued.
we have
You
to
don't
vote
get to
to
start
have a
over
round
again
of
on the same
discussion.
motion on the same day.
Okay, well, we all had a second round.
No, that was my second round on that amendment.
No, what he's saying is that the vote that we took before counts towards this.
Madam Chair, what he's saying is that this is the third amendment failed. We're back on the second amendment. If you spoke twice on the second amendment, you don't get to speak again.
Oh, if you spoke twice on
If
it.
you haven't spoken twice on the second amendment,
didn't
you,
even
like
think about
Board Member Boozer-Strother says, you do get to speak right now.
I see one light, Zipporah Miller. And this is your first round on this one?
So, I'm with my colleague, David Murray. I do want to wrap this up, and I think that we can ask the staff to take a look at the MOU as they engage in the PLA, because I am for PLA. And so we have some information, so if they can take a look at the MOU as a part of the negotiations.
But okay, so the motion is to direct the staff to look at the MOU. And that's what we would approve tonight. That is the motion. So is that what you're saying?
No, the motion was to have them sign it.
Sign it? Oh. I didn't hear the word sign.
And as a matter of fact, it was said that the council was going to actually not do it if we don't sign. That was the discussion.
That shouldn't have come up anyway. Were you finished?
Let's vote.
No, we have two more people. Mr. Jackson, who did not have a one round on the last one. Okay, Mr. Jackson. Okay, so we're ready to vote on the motion for the administration to approve. The motion was for us to direct the administration to look at the, oh, did, really? Okay. Can you read the motion from the first one, please? The second motion.
Yeah, I'll try. The motion was to amend, approve, and sign the MOU to the 6.1 agenda item.
Did you say sign?
She said approve and sign.
Approve and sign.
That was it.
Okay, so we're ready to vote.
Could I make a friendly amendment?
Then that's a new motion, but go ahead.
To the maker.
She can make an amendment, period.
Okay, go ahead.
Can we make an amendment for the administration? Well, no, that was the amendment.
You want to take the sign part off? Just to review the MOU.
Okay, for the administration to review the MOU. Never mind, just forget it.
Okay, then.
Just let's vote, call the roll.
Okay, we're back to what you read, Ms. Barton. Approve, read it again, please.
The motion was to amend, to approve and sign the MOU to agenda item 6.1.
Okay, we're ready to vote. Call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Abstain.
How can you abstain to your own motion? Oh,
It wasn't my motion.
Jesus. I'm so sorry.
Wait a minute. You're talking about the motion, the amendment that I just made.
This is the second amendment.
I'm sorry, I got confused for a second. Okay, please excuse me. Yes, I do vote for this, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Ms. Boozer Strother, you vote yes or no?
No.
Mr. Briggs,
Question of privilege.
Yes.
Can you repeat what we're voting on right now? Really quick.
Okay, read it one more time.
the motion is to amend, to approve and sign the MOU to agenda item 6.1.
No.
Mr. Fields,
No.
Mr. Jackson,
Mr. Jackson. Okay.
Dr. Juanita Miller,
No.
Dr. Zipporah Miller, Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mrs. Rout,
Yes.
Ms. Walker,
No.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
I abstain.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Yes. Motion fails.
Motion failed.
Do you have the original motion, please?
I made the original motion. I made the original motion to accept.
Who wrote a motion on the original?
The original motion is to approve.
May I move to accept items, no, this one, sorry. I got it. May I have a motion to accept agenda item 6.1?
A motion to accept the agenda item 6.1.
I've already,
It's
I already
already-
made that.
It's already,
That's the
it's already
question.
made.
I'm just going with the.
We're just voting, we're just voting.
Call the roll, please.
Abstain. Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
No.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
No.
Dr. Juanita Miller,
Yes.
Dr. Zipporah Miller, Mr. Murray,
No.
Mrs. Rout,
No.
Ms. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
I abstain.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Yes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Motion
Fails.
failed.
I'm sorry, it's a superintendent's motion. It requires a two-thirds vote to not move forward.
No. No.
Is this from the superintendent? Sir?
Yes.
Yes.
It is not an action of the superintendent, no.
It's between the board.
Excuse me, let's
Excuse
listen
me,
to the
member was correct.
parliamentarian.
If the superintendent proposes something, it takes a 2/3 vote basically to reject it.
Yeah, we know that.
That is not correct. A superintendent action is different than a recommendation. That is absolutely not the case.
This is the board action summary document. You're saying that one's incorrect?
I'm saying the action that the superintendent takes has a legal definition that is different than recommending that the board vote for something. This is a simple board majority with a student member voting requires 8 votes.
The member is correct.
Great. What's the count?
It failed. So, new motions?
I believe we're on item 7.1, Madam Chair.
Excuse me?
We would move on to the next item, item 7.1.
Okay, so now it's in.
Madam Chair, my light is on. So what happens now?
I guess we have to come back.
Oh, okay. Well, we do need, because this is time sensitive.
We know. Can we agree to do something? Can you, or you want us to vote to tell you to do something?
Mia, can you read the count out loud,
I
please?
know that's what you said, but.
Not the people, just the count number, please? Because I think there were some abstains too.
Yes, we had 6 ayes, 4 noes, and 2 abstains.
And remember, the superintendent did agree to bring us more information back. So we're moving on to the next item.
So it'll come back in October.
No. All right, colleagues, we will now consider items under governance, second reader, unfinished business. Superintendent House, can you please introduce 7.1 through 7.3?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I ask the board to consider as presented on the agenda, specifically 7.1 through 7.3.
Board members may I have a motion.
Um,
No motion.
Make a motion.
I move.
Wait, who wants, I'll move.
I got my hand up. No, I want to make a motion.
That's what we're trying to get, a
Yeah,
motion.
but I thought you were about to say something.
I'm
She was
making
trying to
a
read.
motion that we approve 7.1 through 7.3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and properly seconded to approve 7.1 through 7.3 under governance, second reader, unfinished business. Any discussion? And I see Mr. Jackson and Ms. Adams Stafford. Mr. Jackson.
So I had a question about the CIP. Initially, it came in at 217, and then it went up $10 million to 227. Just wanted more information about the $10 million increase and the justification. I think $10 million is still material enough to provide a justification for that. And until we can get that information, I'm not comfortable with approving it until, and I understand like with the logistics and, the global supply chain being strained and materials being, triple the cost right now. But I just think that, just as an elected official, we got to do our diligence and understanding, what we're putting forward to the community. Thank you.
Board Member Adams Stafford.
Yes, thank you. Yes. Again, I just want to make sure colleagues are aware. So we are seeing a $10 million increase here on the CIP, and I know that Mr. Matlock and his team are providing us with some justification in terms of why that increase is. And I would just ask if we could table item 7.1 so that we can give board members enough time to look at the increases and the justification behind those and prioritize them, and then come back and vote for the CIP. And so So I'd like to move to table item 7.1, and for the administration to provide a budget justification for the $10 million increase on the capital improvement program to the board within the next week. Thank you.
Okay, do you want to table it or postpone it?
Postpone.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we postpone approving 7.1 capital improvement program for fiscal years 2025 to 2030.
And there was
For
a
what time
second.
you said, for a week? For 1 week. That's next Thursday. Okay, I have discussion. Okay, Ms. Rout and Ms. Witherspoon.
Thank you so much, Chair Mickens-Murray. I'm in favor of tabling this. $10 million is a significant amount of money, and to make sure that we are fiscally responsible, this board should be presented the information by Prince George's County Public Schools. Superintendent House's staff should submit that information as to the reason why that there is a $10 million increase. I think that's just reasonable. I yield.
Thank you. Board Member Boozer-Strother.
Thank you so much, Chair. I'll be voting against postponing. I will be voting for moving forward. I want to congratulate Director of Capital Projects, Sean Matlock, on this plan and your entire team. I will argue that $10 million in the school construction budget is a small amount. The reality is our buildings are crumbling. I'm going to go back to where I started. We had emergency closures. We have to act. Like we have, and I believe this one's also on a timeline. So we need to move this so that we get our funding. So I do want to point out to the public that the board this is second reader. The board had weeks to ask their questions, to get clarification. The use of postponement this evening I find incredibly disruptive, and I would say to my colleagues that many people watching to see back-to-back postponements on school construction is quite concerning. We have children in swing space. Again, we have school communities that just had that experience, and it's painful. It is learning loss. It is resources loss. It is the loss of after-school programs. I can tell you because Hyattsville Middle and Drew Freeman Middle just went through it. So to not have your questions in weeks ago, to now say we need postponement, I'm concerned about what's going on here tonight. So I will leave it at that. I will not be voting for postponement.
Thank you. I have 2 questions as part of the Budget Committee. When did you know that you had a $10 million shortfall, and when did you let us know?
So,
Mr. Matlock?
Can you hear me? Is it working?
Can't hear it.
We can hear you.
Can you? Can you hear me? Okay. So we did not, in all fairness to the board, the $10 million shortfall was discovered earlier, but we thought we were covering it through another part of the budget. When we realized that it could not be covered by that part of the budget and that we had a window that we had to get the amendment to the CIP in order for it to be covered by the county, which has to be in October 1. So what we did was, yesterday, I contacted the board, Ms. Mickens-Murray and Ms. Adam Stafford, and we told them that we had this need, that we need to amend the CIP to cover the $10 million. You only had 1 day. We did send some information, which was a list of the projects that were listed. There were 4 projects specifically. We listed what numbers needed to come in for adjustment.
And then we also listed the contractors involved and the reasons why we needed the increase. It's all in a spreadsheet that we provided earlier today. And again, it's not a lot of time to review it, and so we apologize for that. This is the first time we've ever done this, but it was because of critical projects that are already in construction, but we won't be able to cover their costs through the carry forward, which we're currently working through with the county, the OMB office and our finance office. So until we can get that resolved, we can't use those funds, so we requested additional funds to cover the gap.
Right. I appreciate that candor and the honesty, because we didn't know. And I definitely didn't know. So I will support approving. I won't support the amendment because I agree with Board Member Boozer-Struthers. It's in comparison to the amount of dollars that we're talking about, it is small. I understand that. But it is imperative for everyone in this administration to respect this board enough to share information timely and not leave it up to us to always need to make the adjustments. That's all we're asking. That's all we're asking. And in the spirit of collaboration, I keep saying this is a smart board. They really are. And they read and they do their homework. So just give us a chance. Just give us the information. And even if it's bad, we'll still review it. Doesn't mean we're going to say no to you. Just make your argument. That's all we're saying. Okay, thank you. I see some more lights, so let me see. Z. Miller, Adam Stafford, and then Board Member Jackson.
So I don't count anymore.
I don't see a light for you. I'm sorry. You must be pushing the wrong side of the. But I'll go to you. Please let Board Member Juanita Miller, Dr. Miller, speak. There is no light.
I wanted to speak to the comment about that being so much money. We're talking about a 5-year span.
It's not.
And, you know, approximately $2 million a year. I concur with getting this information on time, but when the EFMP indicated that there was going to be an escalation in construction costs as compared to the funding, that the gap has grown from 8.5 billion to 20 billion. So 10 million over a 5-year period. I just wanted to put that on record. It's not that much.
Okay. Thank you. Board members, no. Oh. Okay, thank you. Board Member Jackson, and then Board Member Adam Stafford, because you spoke. Board Member Jackson.
Okay, all right, thank you. So I just want to go on record to say that I think $10 million is a lot of money. I don't have $10 million laying around either, but I live in District 6, you know, and I have schools that are falling apart. We got so many different issues that I get calls from parents all the time, and I just can't in good conscience just blindly just accept $10 million, especially my background is in finance and economics. Like, how can I just blindly just say, okay, yeah, $10 million, it's material to me. So I really think that we will approve it, but I just need to understand the justification behind it. I don't think that's a hard ask or I'm asking for anything impossible. It's just, I didn't have the information. I didn't know. I come to the board meeting and they say, okay, the budget went up $10 million. Can we approve it? And I'm just like, yeah, we can approve it once we understand what the increase is for. I think that's pretty basic. I think that's a responsible elected official. and I don't mean any harm. So I just can't, just in good conscience, just say, let me give $10 million when, you know, Thomas Pullen needs a stage, when Largo High School doesn't have fields. Like, I just can't just do that. We got transportation issues. Like, it's so many different issues that money can be put towards. I just need to understand why we're putting that money there, and I think that we can get to the bottom of it. Thank you.
Dr. Coleman, would you like to share some insight, please?
I did, yes, sir. Thank you so much. And again, we do appreciate the fact that additional justification is required so you can feel comfortable with the additional expenditure. Just so that we are clear, 2 of the 4 projects that are impacted by this $10 million ask are 2 of our schools that are currently in a swing space, okay? Phyllis E. Williams, as well as James Madison Middle School. So that brings the urgency of why we are making this request. These requests are based on areas such as material cost escalation, code compliance requirements that have escalated as well, unforeseen asbestos abatement, and again, that justification is in a document that we can provide the board so you can review it on your own.
Okay, thank you. Board Member Adams Sapp.
Thank you. You know, I want to reiterate that it's not that board members were negligent and didn't have questions prior to this. The reality is that we actually need to implement some type of process for if after a budget has been approved and there are amendments or, you know, cost increases, that we have some sort of mechanism for alerting the board and providing a justification. That did not happen in this case. You know, if our job is to be good stewards of money, and the money that our tax-paying constituents are entrusting us with, you know, I think we're owed the professional courtesy of actually reading the justification as to why we're spending $10 million more. If I hire a plumber to come to my house and he quotes me at one price and then magically it costs more, I'm going to want to know why. And I urge all of you to take that same stance in thinking about public dollars. You know, in this instance, I have a question. I mean, by us delaying for 1 week to allow board members to actually read this information, would that delay any of these projects?
Mr. Madlock?
Yeah, so these projects, 3 of the projects are actually in construction. They're actually moving forward right now. There was what happens is right now is that DPI, oftentimes when we get into a project and we have some undiscovered events in a building, we find out things in the building, the price of the work goes up. Now, some of these change orders are actually going to be before the board on the next board meeting. We actually have some change orders that we're going to push through. But the thing is, there's no funding available through the carry forward to cover them, and so we wanted to put more money into the budget so that if you approve the change orders, which we believe you will, that the money was there so we could fund those change orders.
Thank you, Mr. Mallock, and I'm sorry, my clock is ticking. That's the only reason I'm interrupting you. Just, if you could just provide me with a succinct answer. If we have a week to allow board members the courtesy to read this information, would this delay?
As long as we have a vote by October 1, we're okay. We have to have the budget go to the county by October 1 and to the state by October 1 so we can get their funding.
Thank you so much, and I'm sorry to interrupt as my clock is ticking. Colleagues, that's all I'm asking. I'm asking for us to do our due diligence. You know, we say that we want to, you know, look over and leave no stone unturned, but we're so willing to just quickly approve this change order. And I want to also note, OBAFA has asked, and the administration is working with us to provide a longitudinal history of change orders so we can understand what projects are always costing more money. What are some of the trends that we're seeing? This is what oversight means. And I also want to mention this. You know, you can vote this down if you want to, that's fine, but I want everybody to understand we're being audited by a lot of different people, and this is one of the areas that they're auditing. They're looking at the fact that we consistently increase budgets very unscrupulously. So my ask is for everyone to just hold our horses, as I've been asking all night, to take some time, read the information, so we can come back together and actually have a robust conversation and understand what we're approving. So that's my ask.
I have one comment. I think I heard the administration say that they could provide information to us, written information, correct?
That is correct.
And I believe we heard 2 representatives speak to why the $10 million increase is required, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So, colleague, I will, and we're on the budget committee together. I would suggest in the future, if you have changes, bring it through this committee. Because remember, we just met, a week ago, which you had an opportunity to bring it to us. So I will ask my colleague if she would consider approving this $10 million increase so that we don't have to come back and have a board, well, it would be virtual, but we won't have to come back to have a board meeting, please.
Respectfully, no, I do
Okay.
not approve
Then
that.
we will
I do
vote.
think that we need to take our time and read this information.
All
I'm
right.
sorry, thank you.
Let's see who's here. Board Member Boozer Struthers, and then Board Member Walker.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to say, I think this board should be prepared for more and more of this. What we just heard, why we need this $10 million, it's just going to be ongoing, and I think we could safely say every single dollar spent is for safety of our students and staff, whether, no matter what specific building it is. And I think we just need to start getting comfortable. We are in emergency crisis situation, and I think our constituents want to see us putting children first instead of, what I think they're seeing here tonight. It is the one reason I voted against the agenda at the start of the meeting is yesterday, the chair told me there'd be an emergency item on this, and I was expecting for us to add an emergency item of now I know the $10 million amount for this budget, which I would be very comfortable voting for because my understanding of the condition of these schools, and I know it's absolutely needed. So getting the houses in order are on both sides. So I want to say that we need to take responsibility when these emergency situations come up, because they're going to keep coming up. I mean, that is just the reality of where we are. We just need to get our heads around being ready for them and knowing our children need these. Thank you.
Right, and I will say that I was told that it would be an emergency item, so it turned out not to be. So I have no control over that piece. So as we communicate, and all I'm suggesting is you find out about these things long before. So just tell us, just talk to us. That's all we're asking. Talk to us. Just help us understand. That's all. Thank you. Now we have Vice Chair Walker and...
This will be quick. It sounds like the document exists already. It's been sent to 2 people already, so it could easily be sent to us tonight. It sounds like it's not going to put us at a more disadvantage than where we sit today. And it sounds like that we're going to be able to move forward knowing that there's going to be continuous increases as you go in and find asbestos or steel. James Madison is in District 9 and they're in a swing school. I need that school to be built. I need them back inside of their schools so that they can be educated inside of a safe space. So I'm all for making sure that we can see it because we haven't seen it. I appreciate you going through the documents and telling us, hey, this is exactly what it is. Send it to us. Let's knock it out. This should not be a big discussion next week. I'm happy to make sure that we can get the document that already exists. If you can send that out tonight to the board, that'll be great. Thank you.
Okay, I see no more lights. So we're voting on the motion to postpone approval of 7.1 until Thursday.
With them sending out the documentation tonight that already exists that outlines what the 10 million is. Thank you.
You're the maker of the motion. Are you okay with that, with them sending out the information to us tonight? Okay. So we're voting on postponing 7.1 Capital Improvement Program for fiscal years 2025 to 2030 for 1 week, which is Thursday, and we will have a virtual, we will meet virtually on Thursday on this issue, nothing else, but they will also send out the documentation supporting the $10 million increase tonight is what I heard. Okay, it is.
It exists. Shoot it out. Tomorrow's fine. Thank you.
We're ready for the vote. Call the roll. Call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Mrs. Boozer Strother,
No.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
No.
Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Dr. Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller, Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Mrs. Rout,
Yes.
Ms. Walker, Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye, motion carries. Okay. Now we'll move to, 7.2, I thought we voted on that, we didn't. We need to vote on 7.2 and 7.3 now. May I have a motion to approve? Oh, it's comprehensive maintenance plan for FY 2024 and the Prince George's County Public Schools 2023-2024 school year virtual day instructional plan.
Madam Chair, I had already made the motion on all three.
You made a motion on all three.
Yeah.
Did it get seconded?
Yeah.
But she, right, and that motion passed when she amended to take the 7.1.
Okay, starting.
So now we need to do 7.2 and 7.3.
All right, starting over. Chair, I move for the board to approve 7.2 FY 2024 Comprehensive Maintenance Plan, 7.3 Prince George's County Public Schools 2023-24 school year virtual day instruction plan.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve 7.2 and 7.3. Any discussion? Seeing none. Ms. Barton, please call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
Aye.
Dr. Juanita Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller, Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye.
Motion
Motion
passes.
carries. Okay, under new business first readers, I will now yield the floor to Mr. Fields to introduce items 8.1 through 8.4.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Policy and Governance Committee met virtually on August 22nd, 2023, and discussed the revisions to the following policies: 3506, 5110.3, 5114.1, and 6139. There was a unanimous vote to forward these policies to the full board with a recommendation that they be approved as first reader. The purpose of Policy 3506, Public Charter Schools, is to establish guidelines for the evaluation of proposals for public charter schools and the oversight of approved public charter schools. The purpose of Policy 5110.3, Voluntary Transfer Requests for Students, is to provide guidelines for considering the circumstances for a student to attend a school other than their identified residential boundary attendance school, and to provide a fair and equitable process for all parents or guardians requesting a transfer for their children from their identified residential boundary attendance school to the requested school. The purpose of Policy 5114.1, Students Exiting Before Attainment of Diploma or Certificate, is to provide guidelines that follow the Code of Maryland Regulations, COMAR, for the withdrawal of students from PGCPS. And finally, the purpose of Policy 6139, Test Security and Data Reporting, is to ensure that the test administration of state-mandated assessments and other locally mandated assessments are secure, valid, and reliable, and to promote the highest standards of testing integrity and ethics by educators and students, and to ensure that the standardization, fairness, and equity in testing and accurate reporting of test data in Prince George's County Public Schools are followed as outlined in the Code of Maryland Regulations. On behalf of the Policy and Governance Committee, I move that the policies be recommended for advanced consideration as first reader.
Excuse me, colleagues, may I have a motion to accept agenda items 8.1 through 8.4 as first readers?
So, move that we approve,
Accept.
for second, to go to second reader, items 8.1 through 8.3.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Ms. Barton, you have a question?
Excuse me, Chair, I'm sorry. Board Member Fields made the motion at the conclusion.
Oh,
of-
yeah, thank you. You
Okay.
know, it's been a long night.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Board Member Fields made the motion, Dr. Miller seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll, Ms. Barton.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson, Dr. Juanita Miller,
Aye.
Dr. Zipporah Miller, Mr. Murray,
Aye.
Mrs. Rout,
Aye.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
Aye.
Motion
carries.
passes.
Follow-up items. Follow-up items are
Point of
post-
order.
Excuse me, yes.
Sorry.
Dr. Zipporah Miller.
So, Madam Chair, I'd like to figure out how, I would like to move to suspend the rules so that we can move to reconsider the vote on 6.1.
No.
Do have an option. Please let me know.
That's a legitimate motion, Madam President. And because no one's familiar, I suspect no one's familiar with the motion to reconsider the vote on, in this case, 6.1. The members move to suspend the rules, which is not debatable, not amendable, you just got to vote on it, period. But it would behoove anyone who voted in favor of 6.1 to second it. And it's just a fact. It's not my opinion. I don't care if you second it or not.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to suspend the rules to revisit 6.1.
Sure.
Second.
I mean, 6.1, right?
6.1.
Yeah.
Just a parliamentary question. Doesn't a member of the prevailing side have to bring up a motion to reconsider?
Not if you suspend the rules, which you
Yes, you
just,
suspended.
you've got to vote on that.
So we're voting on suspending the rule right now.
So that we can reconsider.
Yeah, so that the member can make that motion, yes.
So she's voting to suspend the rules. So that is the motion that's on the floor, so that we can vote again on 6.1. All in favor of suspending the rules to vote again on 6.1, Ms. Barton, call the roll.
Mrs. Adams Stafford,
No.
Ms. Boozer Strother,
Aye.
Mr. Briggs,
No.
Mr. Fields,
Aye.
Mr. Jackson,
No.
Dr. Miller, Dr. Zipporah Miller,
Aye.
Mr. Murray,
No.
Mrs. Rout,
No.
Ms. Walker,
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes,
No.
Mrs. Mickens Murray.
No.
Motion failed.
Can we go home now? I'm kidding. Okay. Now, we're moving to follow-up items. Follow-up items are posted on board docs. Motion to confirm actions taken in executive session on September 21st, 2023 as follows. You want to do that?
I move that we confirm actions taken in executive session on September 21st, 2023.
Second. Which were to, let's amend that to be clear on what they were, which were to, may I make a friendly amendment? Amendment, mine is friendly. To receive a report from the superintendent to discuss approved legal matters and to discuss approved personnel matters. To receive a report from internal audit, to receive legal advice. Did we get legal advice? We did not. We did? Okay, thank you. We did. There was a second coming, I think. Okay, it has been moved and seconded that we confirm actions taken in the executive board on September 21st, 2023, as noted. All in favor? Oh, let's call the roll, please. I'm sorry.
Mrs. Adams Stafford.
Aye.
Ms. Boozer Strother.
Aye.
Mr. Briggs.
Aye.
Mr. Fields.
Aye.
Mr. Jackson. Dr. Juanita Miller. Dr. Zipporah Miller. Mr. Murray.
Aye.
Mrs. Rout.
Aye.
Ms. Walker.
Aye.
Ms. Rivera Forbes.
Aye.
Mrs. Mickens Murray. Motion passes.
Excellent. It is 11 o'clock p.m., and I'm going to call a motion. Colleagues, may I have a motion to adjourn the September 21st,
Second.
2023. There has been seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. I think it'll be unanimous.
Aye.
Any noes? Okay. Well, you all have a great night. The motion passes. The time is 11:01. Thank you. Absolutely. We will not wait to close out. Something. It's getting contentious in here. Oh, you don't drink? Oh, you can have a soda.
Y'all have a good evening.